It is Monday. 28th, and it is a great day to pay Terry McLaurin. Welcome into the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980. You will notice this is not the voice of Kevin Sheehan. He is off for the entire week. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin for said entire week. First practice with the pads today in Ashburn. David Harrison will join us at 12. He was out there today. We'll get his take on what he saw from the first padded practice. Yesterday was a big day because Terry McLaurin reported. It's the first time we have seen Terry in any capacity since the month of May. I would love it, love nothing more, Max, than if by the end of the show, Terry McLaurin is signed. I don't anticipate that is going to happen, but I would love it if it does.
I've been predicting, ever since I left for vacation, I was expecting it to happen while I was gone. I was expecting it to happen immediately after Friday's show before I left. I'm still expecting it, still waiting. It's like that guy with who's waiting to smack his friend with the handful of whipped cream at the door, and it's day 812.
Just waiting.
But here we are. I think it's going to happen. He keeps coming out on the field to talk to Buddy Baker and sign autographs at camp. And that is certainly an interesting move to me.
Buddy Baker being there, Baker being Terry McLaurin's agent, is a positive sign. At the very least, it means there are conversations that are happening.
True. Because
there's no need for an agent to be out on the field if there are conversations that are not happening. Now, Terry right now is on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, due to an ankle injury. That ankle injury is going to subside as soon as pen hits paper. I'm not a doctor. I feel pretty comfortable firing at the hip when I say the best medicine for an ankle injury that he seems to be walking around fine on is going to be an 8-figure extension. So I'm not worried about any sort of injury with Terry. We know that once that deal is done, he will be out there. It is now just a question of when that deal gets done. It's not an if. We know it will get done. It is a when the deal gets done. I have put a benchmark in my mind, considering that he is there, that this deal will be done by next Friday. Next Friday is the team's first preseason game. I don't expect to see Terry in the first preseason game, but I expect the deal to be done by the first preseason game. Him coming back when he did served two purposes. The first purpose is how should I phrase this? It is dumb to just be throwing money away the way that he was throwing money away. He was getting fined daily. If you take into consideration the fines from the first couple of days that he missed of training camp, which was roughly about $150,000, $200,000, you take into consideration some of the other fines from missing minicamp. You take into consideration losing a workout bonus for not going to minicamp. The guy's lost nearly $1 million between fines and giving money back by not being there. It is dumb to be just wasting that kind of money, especially when you are here, because we know that he was in the Ashburn area. He has a home there. He said that during the Eastern Motors press conference. We saw the photo that went viral last week, at least locally viral last week, although nationally viral too, because I believe Ian Rappaport tweeted about it, that Terry McLaurin was doing yoga in the greater Ashburn area. I enjoy yoga. I'm not paying $50,000 to do that yoga when I could definitely do the yoga at the facility, right? So you're not going to keep giving $50,000 away if you're going to be there. You might as well go stop getting fined, and then we will play friends and say, hey, you're on the PUP list. We know you're not going to be out here until you can get a contract situated. This is business. We got a bunch of guys in the facility in this organization that understand this part of the business. We'll put you on the pup list. Just stop getting fined. You can go to meetings. And then importantly, you can go be Terry McLaurin in front of fans. Because do not make any mistake about this. As much as it was to stop getting fined, him coming back on the first day of fans was not a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination. It was, in fact, a great PR move, a rebound, because the Eastern Motors thing I didn't think worked out the way that Terry and his camp thought it was going to work out. But getting up in front of the fans, having them chant your name as you walk out, having Jaden Daniels, while he is on the set of a SportsCenter taping, turn around and encourage the fans to continue chanting for Terry McLaurin, while I think it was Hannah Storm that was up there. I think it was Hannah Storm and Jay Harris. I could be wrong. But while the SportsCenter anchors were getting distracted by running baseball highlights because Jaden was turning around and yelling for them to chant Terry when he had a live microphone on, you don't do all, like, yeah, you hear that, right?
Terry. Why are you stirring him up, man?
You know why he's stirring him up.
He wants his guy to get paid. He wants his dude to get paid. Any conversation that existed, which I never put any sort of real thought into this, but any conversation that existed of this being something that was going to negatively impact Terry's relationship with his teammates, consider Sunday the squashing of that argument, because Jaden was hyping him up. You saw Bobby Wagner celebrating with Terry McLaurin when Terry was walking onto the field. The team around Terry understands the business element of football. They understand what is going on here. But this was a great public relations move from Terry, because you got that moment of Jaden wanting the fans to chant, of the fans wanting to chant, then signing autographs for another 30 minutes, and then doing the walk and talk, which we will play for you momentarily, with the scrum of reporters. He didn't have anywhere to be, by the way. Like, he very easily could have stopped and done more than like the 90 seconds, the 60 seconds, whatever it was that he did, but he wanted to do the walk and talk. There is something just in the brain where watching a guy stand and do a press availability versus watching a guy walking and doing a press availability, there's something in the brain that makes the walk and talk seem a little bit more important. There's just a little bit of a bigger sense of urgency because he's walking. He has places to be in. The media is just lucky to get a point in, or a conversation, a question in to Terry. So I thought that was a very, very good PR move. He's back out there. He was back out there today. First day of pads. Fans out there. They get to see Terry. I'm sure, I haven't checked, I'm sure whenever practice ends, he's going to be giving more autographs, and the fans are going to chant his name. The fans that were there yesterday and came back on Monday, the fans that maybe couldn't make it out on Sunday, but were able to make it out on Monday for an early practice. I saw the line, by the way, on a Monday. Man, we went through some hard times, Max.
We ain't
in hard times now.
We're so back.
You used to be able to just walk right in. You ain't got to worry about parking. You could just waltz right in. You could show up 10 minutes before practice, and you would get front line seats easily. Now you got to get there like an hour and a half before practice starts just to get in and be able to get close to a spot where you can get some autographs.
Which is like 6 a.m.
It's insane. I don't know what I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I don't know what people be doing for work.
Listen,
because like it's a Monday. Like for us, it's different. This is our job. Like we got to pay attention to this. If you just like a regular person and you're taking a half day so you can go to camp, you weren't doing that 5 years ago.
No,
things have changed.
It's remarkable.
It's positive.
Every time I think about it, it's unbelievable where we're at now compared to where we were.
Enjoying it, certainly.
Thoroughly.
Buddy Baker being there leads me to believe that conversations are happening, but I don't know that they are happening as imminently as people would like to think, because my guess is that they're not talking every single day.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, the way that a negotiation would work is that you get to the table and you say your piece, the other side says their piece. You either agree, work to some sort of resolution, but effectively when that day ends, you then give yourself at least another day or two to formulate another side of the argument to better your point. It's not like you're doing this every single day. That would get it would get taxing just from a mental standpoint. You just get bored. You're like, all right, it's the same conversations happening on a daily basis. That is incredibly, incredibly tiresome. So I don't think they're doing that. But him being there, I would guess that Buddy Baker does not live here. I don't know where he lives, but I would guess he does not live in the Northern Virginia area. He has clients all over the NFL. He has clients all over the nation in college football. So he probably doesn't live here, which means he is spending time here. I don't know if that's like he is using the company car to get a hotel. Maybe Terry's host him in his guest room. I don't really care where he's staying, but he is here. And these conversations are always going to go better when you are in person versus over the phone or over a Zoom call. So that is positive. But at a certain point, you are going to get to some sort of impasse of we are expecting this, you are expecting that. And eventually you either have to break your budge or you are just going to come to the conclusion that neither side is going to budge. And what I've been a little frustrated with from our perspective is we have no idea what the holdup is.
Mm-hmm.
In that, is it guarantees? Is it the year length of the contract? Is it total value of the contract? Is it average annual value of the contract? We've listened to a bunch of different people who are generally in the know about these sorts of things, and they don't seem to have a lot of answers. I've listened to Ian Rappaport give us multiple different answers over the last couple of weeks. Adam Schefter has been relatively quiet on this side. Jeremy Fowler said that they're not anywhere close. John Keim said that there's still a little bit of a ways to go in terms of negotiating, but no one's giving us any sort of details as to what that actually means. They're far apart is a very relative term because what is far? We don't have a calculation. It's not like they're far apart means, well, they want $30 million and Washington's giving them 23. We don't know what that is. We've seen some things rumored that is the case, but not from sources that I would claim to be extensively reputable. So we have no idea what exactly the holdup is and how far away they are apart of coming to a deal. That is a little frustrating because at the very least, if you knew, all right, they're $4 million apart, hypothetically, right? All right, well, how can they get $2 million closer? Because if you're $4 million apart and they get $2 million closer, at a certain point, you're just going to say, all right, we're going to take this deal. Whatever it is, we're going to take the deal. We want Terry to be out there. We want him to play. He's going to get a lot of money. We're going to take the deal. So I just don't know where we're at with that. And that has become very, very frustrating. And now seeing Terry on a regular basis, I am curious. Fans were there today. Fans were there yesterday. Fans are not going to be there all week. Do we still see him out there? Because the media is going to be out there all week. They will be able to watch a little bit of practice. They will be able to report on the pads. And there is actual football stuff that we do want to talk about over the course of the show today. I promise. It's not just going to be 3 hours of the Terry McLaurin contract stuff. But it is the biggest story. It's going to be really fun to see what happens when there are no fans out there. Because it has felt like he has been playing up to the fans. I don't blame him. The fans clearly have his back. But he did not just return on Sunday because he wanted to return on a Sunday. He knew that fans were going to be there, so I can stop getting my pockets burned and I could go get a nice public relations move here. My question is, and this is where I'm going to rely on you guys on the phones at 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Did Terry McLaurin come back because he desperately just wanted to be back, or did he come back to swing the narrative back into his favor? Was this more of a PR stunt, or is this because you actually feel like there's progress being made on the contract and that Terry will be in uniform very, very soon? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. It is the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dente sitting in for Kevin on the Team 980. is the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. Taking your phone calls, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Why do you think Terry McLaurin showed up to camp on Sunday? He ended his holdout. He is now going to hold in. He's no longer getting fined. Was it a coincidence that he just happened to not want to get fined the first day that fans were in attendance? I will say personally, I woke up to the news that Terry was going to hold in, and I was thrilled. I loved to hear that because it, at the very least, is some sort of progress, right? But then we were told, well, they're still a little far apart on a deal. They're not as close as many of us as fans would like them to be. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Max, what were your thoughts when you saw that Terry was going to hold in?
I was initially very excited because we had this conversation a couple weeks ago before I left for vacation. It was, would you rather Terry hold out, Terry hold in, or, how do you want this to kind of go if it continues down the path it has? And hold in is easily the route you would want him to take, just because he's among everybody. He's around, he's in meetings, he can, talk to Adam, talk to Dan, and do all the things that he needs to do. But I definitely think you're right. There's no coincidence that he decided to show up on the first day of fans showing up. But at the same time, Keim, I was listening to him last night before I went to bed, and he said that both sides seem to be pretty dug in on where they stand. And Terry said at the Eastern Motors presser, it's about how he values himself and all that. So using context clues, like I would imagine that the number, like the guarantee per year, is probably the hold up here. But if you don't see any like real resolution coming to this in the short term, you might as well avoid the 50K a day fines, show up on the day that fans show up, and ingratiate yourself as you have the past your entire career here. So I completely understand why Terry did it, and it makes all the sense in the world. But I'm not sure this is going to get done as quickly as we want it to.
Do you agree with my sentiment that August 8th, which is the team's first preseason game, it's a little less than 2 weeks away from today that this will be done?
I would hope.
Because that feels like...
That's a Friday?
It's a Friday, yeah, Friday preseason game. This team plays Friday preseason games, a Monday preseason game, and I think then a Saturday preseason game.
What?
I mean, it's all over the place.
That's weird.
It also makes it very difficult you're not going to put starters out there back-to-back games with 5 days rest in
Absolutely
a preseason.
not.
It's just not going to happen. So that schedule is stupid. But it just feels like, August 8th is far away, in that it's literally, almost, what is it? It's July 28th, so it's about 10 days or so, give or take 10, 11 days. But in camp, man, these days speed up really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
By tomorrow, we're going to have other storylines. I mean, even today, we've had some other storylines from the first padded practice that we're going to be paying attention to. By the time we get to tomorrow, we're going to have storylines from that padded practice that we're going to be paying attention to. So there's going to be other things that come up in just the general news cycle of this team, to where you're going to still worry about Terry McLaurin, but you're going to be focusing on other things, and it'll kind of become out of sight, out of mind, unless he continually does what he did on Sunday, which is just make appearances and get in front of cameras and talk to members of the media. I don't have to go into grave detail on his situation and what makes it very, very unique. We've heard this all before. He's going for contract number 3 in the NFL, which is a very rare thing that most players do not get the ability to say that they have. But on top of that, his scenario is so unique because the first 7 years of his career, the quarterback situation was awful. You wouldn't wish it on, well, maybe you would wish it on your division rivals, but outside of that, you wouldn't wish it on anybody else. You're just constantly having a line of guys that you don't think are very good to play quarterback, and then they are the ones that are playing quarterback to him. So the added impact of Jaden Daniels coming into the fray and then watching those two guys perform as well as they did, that adds another element to this contract negotiation that is very, very unique. And I like the fact that this Buddy Baker guy is hanging around camp, but it is impossible to miss that he has not been, as an agent, the lead in negotiations with anything even remotely close to this situation that Terry is dealing with, just from a third contract standpoint, not even factoring in the stuff that I just mentioned about he had played with a bunch of bad quarterbacks and now he's playing with a really good quarterback. And how do you kind of balance that in the negotiations by saying, yes, he's getting close to 30, but look what he did with a quarterback. Look what he did in that playoff game against Detroit, where if you're thinking his athleticism is going to slip, didn't slip on that screen pass that he took to the house. Look at the play that he made against Philadelphia in the championship game. It was one of the only good plays that Washington's offense made in that championship game. Athleticism looked really good as he's running away from Philadelphia defenders that are supposed to be young and spry. So how do you make these arguments and then doing it with an agent that has not been in these positions before? Look, it's going to be difficult if this is your first time negotiating something like that. In 4 or 5 years, Buddy Baker might be like the next Drew Rosenhaus. I have no idea. But in this particular scenario, you're like, like this is going to be a little difficult. How is this going to be navigated? Because I can promise you this, Adam Peters doesn't seem like a guy that's going to get walked all over. That doesn't seem to be the way that he operates. He comes from organizations where the general manager is not one to get walked all over. I'm simultaneously Team Terry McLaurin because I believe that NFL players should take advantage of every opportunity that they have to get money. This is a very finite industry. If you can even get to the age of 30 in the NFL, that's a win. But if you can get it even further, you got to take advantage as much as you can and get the money. But I'm also in the camp of Team Adam Peters because his job is to make a winner in DC, a perennial winner in DC, something we have not had in years and years, decades and decades. Last season was awesome. How can we make sure that this season is equally as awesome? And I saw a question that I believe it was Kevin who poised this topic last week. Washington is capable of winning without Terry McLaurin, but for this particular year, I believe you need Terry McLaurin to reach the heights that you did last year. In the grand scheme of things, as long as 5 is upright and healthy, you are going to put yourself in a position to win every single year. But based off of the current roster construction, it feels like you absolutely need Terry McLaurin in the year of our Lord 2025 to have any sort of realistic shot at winning football games. What say you? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Were you happy to see Terry McLaurin, even though a contract extension does not feel imminent? Let's go to Greg in Gaithersburg. Greg, you're on the Team 980.
Hey, good morning, guys. Before I tell you what I thought, I got a quick question. This $50,000 a day fine, is this an NFL-opposed fine or a Washington fine?
It's kind of both. In the new CBA, they can't waive it. So he is going to have to pay the fines.
Okay, well, maybe they can. Maybe I think it's very positive that he's there. And I think the fact that his agent is there, as green as he is, and I think it's going to really boost the morale of a lot of the players, seeing him there, whether he's, working out or not. And I'm sure that with the ownership group, that they have a way that if they want to work into the deal with him, that, okay, well, you missed so much time, we'll work out something that you can get part of it back or something. But I think it's all positive. I mean, it's a lot more positive than him not being there at all.
Greg, I agree with you that it is positive. I agree with you that the team is going to find some way, shape, or form to get around the fines. Like, I know you can't waive it in the CBA, but there's going to be.
They'll give him a little extra $200,000, just not to, we're not waiving the fine, but here's the money to pay.
But
us.
here's, something, right? Like, I think they will do something to kind of offset that particular fine.
I'd be shocked if he wasn't signed by the end of the week.
Yeah, I think I would be too. So, Greg, I appreciate the call. Now, what you did say, you mentioned Buddy Baker and him just standing there because he's been there for 2 days.
Menacingly.
Been there every day that Terry's been there. I don't believe he has talked to a ton of media. He's there, but if you've never been to a camp, the setup, at least when fans are there, it's a little bit different when there are no fans there, but it's still in a position to where Buddy Baker can very easily stand in a position where he does not have to talk to any media. You are standing, if there are fans there, you're kind of standing in between fields because all of the media line up on the field that is on the near side to the fans. If there are no fans there, what they do when the team starts getting into like real 11-on-11s is that they make all the media go up and stand on a hill. And then you can just kind of, stand in between there. We can't, as media members, go down that hill until guys are walking off the field, and that's usually where we grab interviews. So if you saw any of my interviews that I did on Twitter, which if you're not following me, you can at the Denton Day, that was on the slope of the hill as the players are walking off of the field. We kind of go, grab them, so on and so forth. It's very easy if you are the agent to avoid talking to any media members, because I know we got a bunch of people that want to ask him questions. I want to ask him questions, right? I just want to see what is the holdup between the two sides in getting this deal done. Because in watching some of the drills, the first 2 days of training camp, when there were no pads and you're just kind of wading your way in to installing some things, you're not doing anything particularly complex, but for the people that are new, it's kind of a continuation of mandatory mini camps where you're getting familiar with any of the route combinations, any of the language that is going to be used. The first 2 days, guys are looking really, really good. That third day, where they really spent a lot of time on 11-on-11 drills, there's a very big gap when there's no Terry McLaurin. Like Chris Moore is a guy that I thought has looked pretty good in the days that I've been out there. It's a different beast when you're doing almost exclusively 11-on-11s. And it's very, very difficult to get separation the way that Terry does. It's very difficult to make contested catches the way that Terry does. Jalen Lane made a hell of a catch on Sunday. That thing went viral. It's a hell of a catch.
Was it a catch?
All right,
Mikey
Sanders
still doesn't believe so.
Catch. Mikey did not believe it was a catch.
And watching the replay, he
did
might
land
be on
out
his
of
side.
bounds. Yeah, he definitely landed out of bounds. But because it's preseason or because it's training camp, I think we can factor in that was really cool. So we're going to have it count.
I mean, it was,
rule.
I mean, there's always that exception, I feel like.
It doesn't happen in the regular season, but in the preseason and training camp, I feel like you can make that rule.
You can make the argument that it should, though.
I would agree with that. But Jalen Lane has looked really, really good in camp, but he's also never played in the NFL before. So when you start to run up against the defensive backfield, which, by the way, defensive backfield for the Commanders looks like it is looking very, very good. Not going to fall too much into it yet because it is just early. We haven't even done a week of training camp, but the defensive backfield has looked really, really good.
So we're not going to declare the Legion of Boom back yet?
Not yet. Could we get there? I mean, look, Dan Quinn was the architect of the Legion of Boom. I can see some moves that they are making to try and at least recreate some of the Legion of Boom. But that defensive backfield looks really, really good. And then when you start to go up against them without Terry McLaurin, it's Deebo Samuel and a bunch of other guys. You know, everybody's falling in love with Ja'Cory Brooks. I liked Ja'Cory Brooks. Talked to Ja'Cory Brooks. I think he's a really good kid. I think he played really well at Louisville last year. But he was also undrafted for a reason. There's a lot of work to be done there before you can just say, well, get Terry out of here. We're going to replace him with him. Same goes for Jalen Lane. No, we're not going to just get Terry out of here. You really see the difference when you start to focus on actually implementing and installing offense and you don't have 17 there. So I do think that is something that the coaching staff in the front office is taking into consideration, but that gets back to this key point of this whole thing is we know they're far apart, but we do not know what is causing them to be far apart and how far is. Because that term is very, very relative. If you're not going to tell us what the discrepancy is between the two, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to then speculate on what it is. because we've seen all of these numbers get thrown around to a point. Like a month and a half ago, someone said $36 million. And you're like, no, he's not getting $36 million. That's not going to happen. That number has come down drastically, but we're still kind of in this position of waiting to see what that number is going to be. It is just very clear, though, that you have to pay him. You have to pay him and get him ready. It is idiotic from a long-term perspective. You're too late in this situation to trade. The value for Terry is so far gone. He clearly does not want to trade either, because at this point, you're in the holdout to where you either pay me or you trade me. He has not asked for a trade, at least publicly. And considering that they have taken a lot of steps to make some things public, him returning, Eastern Motors, talking to certain media members that you understand are going to make, like, we've been hearing about these frustrations since May when Jordan Schultz tweeted about it. Not a coincidence. We give this information to him. He tweets about this information, right? They've tried to make some things public, but at no point have they asked for a trade, which leads me to believe that that is something that Washington has as an advantage. We know that you want to be here. You have started a life here. You said so much in the Eastern Motors press conference. You and your wife just got married. You just bought a house here. You're doing yoga in parts of Ashburn that are very nice. By the way, special piece of lore about Denton Day. I got my hair bleached right next to where Terry McLaurin was doing yoga. Does that mean anything to anybody outside of me? Probably not. But it is just a fun fact. I don't have hair anymore, so I like to dream of the days where I did have hair.
Nice to reminisce.
It's nice to reminisce. I wish it was still in my actual day-to-day life. Anyway, they have that, they being Washington, have that as a little bit of an advantage, knowing that you have not asked for a trade, which means you don't actually want to leave here, because you could ask for a trade. I don't think it would work. Brandon Ayuk asked for a trade, and then San Francisco gave him money, and he was fine. Myles Garrett asked for a trade. Cleveland gave him money. It was fine. You could ask for a trade as sort of a bit of leverage, but he's not willing to do that. It would be very odd and kind of blow up, honestly. It would blow up in the face of what we, from our perspective on the outside, know about Terry McLaurin, what everyone has told us about Terry McLaurin. If he came out Sunday and Monday to do a bunch of signings, to kind of hype the fans up, to do everything that he did this weekend, and then immediately turned around and said, trade me, it would look a little hypocritical. And you start to scratch your head a little bit. So I don't think that he wants to go anywhere, and that's the reason he hasn't asked for a trade. But that also gives Washington leverage in these discussions. If you want to weigh in on the Terry McLaurin extension, do you think it gets done this week? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. We will talk a little bit about what was seen the first day at padded practice as well. It is the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
All right, we're back in the saddle. Here's what's trending on this Monday, July 28th. Happy first day of pads to all who celebrate. Terry McLaurin has shown up to camp. He showed up yesterday and was placed on the PUP list with an ankle injury. Terry and his agent Buddy Baker are both at camp as both sides work to continue to work towards an extension to keep him in Washington past 2025. Santana Moss will be inducted into the Commanders' Ring of Fame. The ceremony will take place pregame September 7th against the Giants to open the season. The Mystics, they fall to the Phoenix Mercury 88-72. Shakira Austin led the team in scoring with 20 points on 8 of 18 shooting. The Nats, they take down the Minnesota Twins by a score of 7-2. Jake Irvin is credited with the win, giving up only 2 earned runs and 5 hits. CJ Abrams kicked off the scoring in the first inning with a bomb to right center field. They will take on the Astros tonight. First pitch is at 8:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 7:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin. You can tweet me at the Denton Day. In 15 minutes, some of the best camp battles that we are going to watch after padded practice day number 1. David Harrison going to join us from Ashburn at noon. He was out there for padded practice today. We're talking Terry McLaurin now on the Kevin Sheehan Show. He showed up, he reported on Sunday. Ironically, coincidentally, you might say, it was the first day of fans out there. He signed autographs for about 30 minutes on Sunday. He signed some more autographs today. I don't know that anyone got a taped word with Terry McLaurin, but he was not a whole lot of description. He did, however, talk yesterday, and it was a walk-in talk, as we call in the business, which is where, honestly, walk-in talks feel a lot more important than just stationary talks, because you, as the one that's walking, kind of dictate how many questions you get. You're not just letting everybody get questions, and it makes you feel more important because I'm walking, I got places to be. And that's partly because he, signed autographs for 30 minutes. But here was Terry McLaurin on Sunday. This is his first comments since the presser that he ran in Eastern Motors, but it was also the first time we had seen him since then.
I can't beat that at all. Like that's they've shown me a lot of love and support, and I always try to give that back, not just on the field but off the field.
What's it mean for them just being so excited to see you?
Man, it's unbelievable. That's the part that gives you joy. Like you kind of lose sight of some things sometimes when the business gets involved, but I never lost sight of the way they supported me and the way that I pour into them and the way they poured into me. So at the end of the day, it's business, but it has nothing to do with them. And any chance I could come out here, do what I got to do in there, but come out and show them my support and how much I love them, I'm going to always do that. I've always been that way.
To watch them on the field, how is that for you?
Oh, man, talking about yeah, man, it's tough, but, it's the business right now and just trying to take things day by day.
Terry, why did you want to come in today?
I'm here.
That last question and that last answer, I think, was my favorite.
I'm here.
I'm here. I'm not going to tell you why I came today, but I am here. Just know that I am here and I am present.
$50,000 is a lot of money, Mr. Kime.
$50,000 is a lot of money. He got a mortgage now. Whew. These homes, I don't know if y'all have seen some homes in Ashburn. They're not cheap. He got a mortgage that he got to pay.
They're not small either.
They're not small. That yoga, it's expensive in Ashburn. You know what I mean? So him saying that, it kind of alludes to my point of that this was meant to get him in front of the fans. And if I don't believe that Adam Peters or anybody in the ownership group that is negotiating this deal, I do not believe that they were taking a Nico Harrison approach, where Nico Harrison traded Luka Doncic in the NBA and then was like, I didn't know people liked him that much. I didn't know he was that important. I don't think that anyone in this organization is taking that approach with Terry McLaurin. I think they realize he's very important to the fan base because he has been kind of the guiding light, the one point of hope for the last 7 years since he's been here in some really trying times. Now, you can both recognize that as a front office, but also decide we're not going to pay you because you were, good for somebody else. We need to make sure that we are crafting a winner here. I will say Terry could have been really petty about this, and he wasn't.
He's a guy who continues to take the high road. It just kind of shows how he's wired, how he's built.
Exactly. But what I mean, Max, is that he very easily could have tweeted out. He doesn't tweet very often. He could have Instagrammed out, hey, I'm going to be right across the street if anybody wants some autographs. I'll be at 1 Loudon, right in front of the Alamo. You got that big space there. Usually kids are running around. I'll be right out there. Anybody wants to come hang out, sign some autographs. And you know what? People would have went. They absolutely would have showed up in droves. Nando's, South Block, the other ice cream places. Oh, they would have been thrilled. They're like, yes, get the Terry autograph. Come here, get some food. He did not do that, though. He decided he wanted to go there. He wanted to be present. in front of the fans at training camp and also hang out with his teammates because there is a brotherhood element to this. Are you happy that Terry McLaurin showed up on Sunday, or do you think this was more of just a PR stunt? Let's go to Ricky in Greenbelt. Ricky, you were on the Kevin Sheehan show. What's going on?
Good morning. Yeah, a PR stunt. It was a stunt. I don't know if it's PR. I think number one, the fine certainly would draw me into a camp. He is he on the PUP list? He is unable to perform. That's what's going on.
He is, yes.
So he is able to walk and sign autographs, but he's not able to practice. I guess he's taking advantage of the medical team. But this sounds kind of serious. He's had this ankle since the end of last season, or probably even through the playoffs, because he's starting to look a step or two slow. He's getting caught from behind in a couple games last year. But anyway, I mean, I'm glad he's back in camp, but it was motivated by the fines, I guess. So,
Ricky, I appreciate the call. Let me tell you this. That ankle is going to be fine when he signs an extension. He'll be good. He'll be out there. You notice in that walk-in talk, there was no mention of the ankle. When they asked him, hey, is it weird to watch your teammates out there and not be out there? He didn't say, yeah, but, my ankle. There was none of that. He came out at the end of practice. He wasn't just standing there throughout the entirety. He came out at the end of practice. What do you do? Hey, I could go sign some autographs.
No signs of a limp either.
I could get some pictures. I mean, he didn't jog.
Well, that would have been smart, unlike Christian Wilkins.
I mean, that would have been the killer. If you just see this man jogging out there, you're like, wow, that ankle
looks just fine.
It looks okay. I've seen worse ankles before, so he didn't do any of the jogging stuff, but the ankle is going to be fine once he signs that extension. That's how these things tend to work a little bit. And it is also, I would say that's probably a sign of good faith from the organization in that, hey, we know what the deal is here. You want an extension. We are going to work to get you an extension, but you're not going to take the field until that extension comes into fruition. So we are going to play smart here, and we are not going to make you take the field. That's not going to happen. You can do what you're doing now, which is just kind of chilling, hanging out, getting some treatment indoors, and then when you want to come do the fan autographs and maybe take some pictures, some video, you can come do that, and everyone's going to love it because everybody loves you. And it is also just them realizing that everybody loves Terry McLaurin, right? They realize that, and they know that. I just don't know if he's going to be showing up as frequently when there are no fans there. He'll be in the building, but I don't know if he's going to come out and watch practice when there are no fans there. I would love for him to do that because that is, hey, I'm learning the plays here, right? Like I'm focusing, I'm hearing the terminology, I'm in the heat with all my guys because it's hot out there, especially this week. Today was hot. Tomorrow it was hot. It's going to be hot. Wednesday it's going to be like crazy hot, allegedly. So if he's out there when there are no fans, I think that would be a very, very positive sign. We will have people from camp for the entire week that are going to join us. And David Harrison is going to join us in a little over an hour. He was out there today. It was the first padded practice as well. Sports Center was there. They're doing this 50 days in 50 states, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
With Sports Center. It was something that I saw a commercial that Van Pelt was doing, but then Van Pelt is on his summer vacation. He would be the one that would make the most sense to be here. He has a relationship with the team. He's obviously from the area, but they did not have Van Pelt out there. Terry also did not talk to anybody on Sports Center. That is worth mentioning. I am very curious. When is he going to talk? Because now, technically, that he is holding in, if they wanted to make is not the right word. You don't really make guys talk. You kind of ask them, hey, do you want to talk? And the PR team out in Ashburn has a really good feel of who wants to talk, who's going to be good at talking. Because you're not, the worst thing you can do is send a guy up in front of a press conference and have him just not say anything. And then that's not going to go well. But now that he is officially back with the team, I am curious as to when he is going to talk in a much more elongated form, or if they're going to wait until he signs that contract extension before he says anything to the media in a official press conference standpoint. And then those conversations are going to be interesting because you're going to get asked, what was the holdup? What took so long? The drama of this is building to that eventually coming to fruition when he signs that contract, which again, I believe he's going to sign that contract before the first preseason game. My panic meter is still at a 4, which is what it has been like for a majority of the offseason. Even after the Easter Motors thing, he was still at a 4 because you got a lot of time. He was in this offense last year, and they're going to add things, with the addition of guys like Deebo Samuel. They're going to add elements to this offense that the offense did not have last year. So I want Terry to be, make sure he's locked in for that. But I don't need him here right now. I want him here right now. If we get to the first preseason game and we're still at this weird standstill, then I'm going to start panicking a little bit. That meter is going to move because what is still the holdup? Like, how firm is everybody standing? Is this really going to be something where he just comes and plays out his contract and then he hits the open market, or God forbid, we have to sit through another franchise tag debacle like we did with Kirk Cousins? I would prefer not to sit into another franchise tag debacle. The Kirk Cousins thing was kind of brutal. I think it's only going to be worse if it's Terry McLaurin, right? So I think that August 8th is going to be the kind of the key focal point of like, all right, if nothing is done by then, it's going to start to be a little bit of a problem. Again, that's like 11 days from now, 12 days from now. And Max, I don't know if you caught this. I've developed a new bit that I'm doing on social media where every single day I'm tweeting out, it's a great day to pay Terry McLaurin.
I have caught on to this bit. I like this bit.
What I have been doing is posting a touchdown from every single, or from his touchdowns this year.
Mm-hmm.
My rule is that it has to be from this year. I'm not going to tweet something from like his rookie year, be like, pay him now. No, I'm not going to do that. You could follow me, by the way, on Twitter at the Denton Day. But when I started this little bit, I was like, well, surely I'm only going to use like 5 touchdowns and then, 5 so days.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be signed.
It's dwindling.
I don't know if I have that many touchdowns to last until like an August 8th. I'll have to start he made other great plays.
You have to post Redskins Terry McLaurin highlight.
But like, I haven't posted that great play that he made in the Cleveland game because he got caught from behind. And we're trying to wear like he's fast, like his speed is still he got caught from behind in that one. There was a play in the Bengals game too before that touchdown that Jaden threw where deep ball, Terry catches it, and then he gets caught from behind again. So like I don't want to post he getting caught from behind plays, but if he doesn't sign before I run out of touchdowns, I can only post so many things.
Terry,
I'm only a man.
Save the bit.
Like,
please
save my tweeting bit, Terry, please. That's what I'm worried about the most in this whole thing. All right, we will transition to a few other things that took place on the actual football field with guys that are playing now, also guys that played present. I'll explain what that means on the other side. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
We're just taking it day by day.
Being here in the building, though, how does that improve the dialogue?
Just taking it day by day.
Are you going to be able to practice at some point, or how far away from being healthy are you?
Just taking it day by day.
Thanks.
Just taking it day by day. That's
He's just
Terry
like me.
McLaurin
Wow.
Today, right? That was today after practice.
Yep.
He's just taking it day by day. That means when I get paid, that day will be the day, and I'll be out there. This is obviously going to be a big storyline for the entirety of camp until Terry gets paid. And then once he gets paid, I would hope for his sake and for our sake as fans that he gets out there and he performs with flying colors. Because the one thing that is going to be said immediately if he gets out there and does not perform well is, well, should have been out there. Should have been out there earlier. The holdout clearly had a factor in that. And I don't want that to be the case with Terry. I want him to get his money. I want him to perform just as well as he did last year, albeit maybe not 13 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns in the regular season. That's a hard number to hit on a year-by-year basis. But I want it to look like that he has not missed a beat. One final thing on the Terry topic before I transition to a wide receiver of yesteryear that got properly honored yesterday. I have not understood, why everyone and their mother wants them to trade with the Patriots. I see that in our chat right now. I've seen that on Twitter. I have a guy that has responded to my Terry tweet about pay Terry. Today's a great day to pay Terry McLaurin. I tweet it every single day, and I will until he gets paid. You can follow me at the Den Day. I have tweeted this every single day, Max. And almost every single day, I have gotten 1 to 2 people say they got to make a deal with New England. They got to trade with the Patriots.
For what?
Who on earth do you want from the Patriots that you think is even remotely close to Terrence McLaurin's? Not a single person.
Terry McLaurin for Drake May. Who says no?
Like, what on earth? Who on that roster is like, yeah, that guy's going to come in and be great? I've seen the Demario Douglas.
Pop Douglas conversation.
I mean, I like Demario.
Man.
He played at Liberty. I went to Liberty. So I'm rooting for my guy, but I'm rooting for him from afar in New England. Someone told me they should trade for Diggs. Like Stephon Diggs.
What year is it?
Like the guy that's 31 years old and also is known to have a little bit of drama.
Just a wee bit.
A little bit of drama.
A little bit of pink powder.
He wanted to
Allegedly.
get out of Buffalo when they were at the top of the AFC.
Get me away from Josh Allen.
And then there was the pink powder thing. You know what I've never seen Terry McLaurin do? Get on a boat with Cardi B. Now, if you want to get on a boat with Cardi B in your free time, I'm not going to stop you. This is America. If you have an opportunity to get on a boat with Cardi B, you should get on the boat with Cardi B.
Easily.
However, I don't want my wide receiver to be getting on a boat with Cardi B. And Stephon Diggs did that. Why on earth would you trade? First of all, I actually don't even know if you're allowed to, based on contracts. There might be a buffer period where you can't trade for Stephon Diggs after he just signed a new contract with the team. So there's that element to this as well. But even just like taking that out of it, why on earth would you want Diggs over Terry McLaurin now, based off of who we know Terry is, what this organization is trying to build, and then what Stephon Diggs has been over the course of his career, which is a really good wide receiver that does not add to what is going on here.
It's not 2019 anymore.
It ain't 2017 anymore. There is no Minneapolis Miracle, and trade picks in July do not do you any good. Draft picks in April, cool, like it. Draft picks in July do you nothing because you ain't drafting in July, which means you're just giving up a lot of production and then getting not a lot of production back in return because there's no one who is giving you the kind of production that Terry has given this team over the course of not just last year, but in previous years, but specifically in last year that is going to be available via trade in July. He is not getting traded. I don't know why people think that New England is going to be a team that they would make a trade for. That just does not make any sort of sense to me. Now, that aside, put that on the back burner for now. Max, if you don't mind, could you please hit me with a what do you got? I, like many of you in the younger demographic, maybe some of you in the older demographic of this fan base as well, but in the younger demographic, I grew up loving 4 players: Clinton Portis, Sean Taylor, Chris Cooley, and Santana Moss. There was something about Santana Moss, the swagger that he played with on the field, the charisma that he played with on the field as a young guy who was I started like really watching football in 2004. If you are one of the people that says I watched football when I was 4 years old and I remember everything, I'm happy for you. You're lying, but I'm happy for you. I was not that. I had to be 9, 10 years old to be able to really process what was happening. And around the time I was 9, 10 years old was when Santana Moss got traded here from the New York Jets. So I saw 2004 when he was not here, and I saw 2005 when he was here. And particularly that Monday Night Football game where he has 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes against the Dallas Cowboys. And then from that point, as a young kid who's falling in love with football, you are sold. That dude 89 is a badass. He's my favorite player. Why are we talking about Santana Moss? The team announced that they are going to put him in the Ring of Fame this season. They've taken a game and they're going to put Santana Moss in the Ring of Fame. This is long overdue, and this is sensational. Max, I'm sure you have memories of Santana as well.
Of course I do.
But he made this team fun to watch when they were not fun to watch.
It was tough. And him and Sean and, like you said, Clinton Portis and Chris Cooley, they were the bright spots, man. I'll never forget, like, just being a little kid and getting juiced up to watch specifically those 4 guys every week.
Every single week. I think everybody should be taking a shot of Hennessy before Santana Moss goes into the Ring of Fame.
Agreed.
But watching him get this honor, I think is fantastic. And it speaks to, yet again, the great job that this new ownership group has done in making sure that guys of the past are not just honored, but properly honored. And he carried this team. He's very similar to Terry in that he carried this team offensively in a lot of ways when there was not a lot good going for it. I put together a list. He's going to be honored, by the way, week 1. So it's going to be the opening week home opener against the Giants. I put together a list of the quarterbacks that Santana Moss caught passes from.
Oh, man, let's hear it. This is a
list
good one.
Is not a fun list. Mark Brunell, who probably is the best one on this list.
Probably.
Maybe. Patrick Ramsey.
First NFL jersey. Shout out that guy.
Jason Campbell. I thought Jason Campbell was going to be silly.
So did I, man.
When he had an offensive line, Jason Campbell had something to him. The problem is he played for this team when there was no offensive line. Anyway, Jason Campbell, Todd Collins, remember him? He had the loosest sleeves I've ever seen on a quarterback. That dude, there was no tight sleeve in the wardrobe of Todd Collins. Donovan McNabb, Rex Grossman, John Beck, Robert Griffin III, Kirk Cousins, and Colt McCoy. That's a tough list. And not the good kind of tough.
Not TUFF.
No, that's a tough list, man. And he still put up not crazy numbers, but he still put up really, really good numbers. His career in Washington, he caught 47 touchdowns, just shy of 8,000 yards, 581 receptions. There was that first year in 2005 where he helped propel a team that was not very good in 2004 and gave them an immediate jolt of offense to the point where he has the single season receiving record in franchise history at 1,483 yards. 8 touchdowns that year is 8 or 9 touchdowns that year. I don't remember the touchdowns in 2005. That 1,483 number was seared into my brain as a young kid. I couldn't do fractions, but I could tell you the amount of yards that Santana Moss had in the 2005 season where he joined this team. I was a sicko when it came to like studying these sorts of things. But him getting into the Ring of Fame is long overdue. So I want to commend all of the people that came to this decision making, but also just to point out that Santana, just like Terry McLaurin, in that, oh my God, if he would have just had consistency at quarterback and an offensive line, this guy would have been maybe not a top 5 receiver in the NFL, but he would be in those conversations for certainly top 15. And then with a couple of good years, maybe top 10 on a perennial basis. And he just never was that. One of my favorite games that he ever played, I want to say the year was 2000 and it was probably 2010. I was in high school at this point. They were taking on the Detroit Lions, but this was not when Detroit had gone winless and then beat Washington, because they won this game. So this was probably year 2 or 3 when Matt Stafford was the quarterback. But you'll remember he had a crosser that ended up in a 60-yard touchdown. And then they needed a big play on special teams. And Santana, who never really did punt return, they said, go out there, get on punt return. He was on punt return, caught the ball, took a little bit of a step backward, and you're like, oh no, oh God, please, this is not going to be good. And then he turned chicken you-know-what into this beautiful gourmet pot of chicken soup where he takes a step backwards, breaks through the initial line, and then he goes like 80 yards to the house. Washington beats Detroit. It's games like that that are sprinkled in throughout the course of his career where, again, didn't have a great quarterback. I mean, like you heard some of the guys that threw to him. I would say Kirk was the best quarterback that threw to him, but this was Kirk before the you like that moment. Like Tana was done in 2014. You like that was what, 15 or 16, right?
That sounds right, yeah.
So this was when Kirk was still struggling to kind of get his footing as a quarterback in the NFL. He was getting thrown to by a bunch of just like average Joes, and he was still able to put up numbers. I'll never forget how excited I was for 2006 when they get Brandon Lloyd. They get Adam Archuleta. He had just had that 1,400-yard year the season prior. In fact, that was the best odds that Washington has ever had. Not ever, but has had since the Super Bowl years of making the Super Bowl. Even better than the odds this year, in fact. I went back and did some research. They were 7-1 to win the NFC, and I think they were, I think it was 14-1 to win the Super Bowl that year. Odds were a little different. They weren't quite as sharp with futures back in 2006 as they are nearly 20 years later in 2025. But that was in part because Santana was so good. And I remember, so this is the craziest story that I think I have from training camp. In 2006, I went to training camp twice. I went with a buddy of mine and his dad, and it was me and him, and then our 2 younger brothers. So it's 4 of us. Dad dropped us off, went to training camp, got picked up, whatever, right? And like most kids, I was at the time, this was 2006, I was like 11, 12 years old at the time. We're looking for autographs. I want autographs. I want my favorite players. I want everybody. Give me some autographs. We weren't able to get Santana's autograph that time. Come back. This is when like all the practices were open, or not all of them, but a lot more than are currently.
More than like 3.
More than like the 3, 4, 5, whatever that they are doing this year. We go back later that offseason to training camp. My parents were not like overly strict by any sense of the imagination, but they were like rules, right? Like we have some rules. Good kids raised well. We're standing by the roped off section of training camp. And we're like far back in the roped off section. Like there's the main crux where there's all these tents, and we're like kind of far back, almost to where you're leaving to go to the parking lot. There's no security guards over there. So I look at my boy Cedric. Cedric looks at me. I look at my mom. She shrugs. We go under the ropes. We're like, we are getting Santana Moss's autograph. Worst thing that happens is they kick us out. We don't care. We're getting Santana Moss's autograph. We run into Jason Campbell. Get Jason Campbell's autograph. Now, mind you, I don't have any sort of like real apparel. I'm 12. I don't understand like collectors. I don't get any of that because I'm 12. I have pieces of paper, like literally probably 2x2 pieces of paper.
You take it to FedEx, get it photocopied.
Exactly. And I just hand Jason Campbell a piece of paper, and Jason Campbell signs a piece of paper. And I'm like, that's sick. I just got Jason Campbell's autograph. Now,
Hell
Cedric
yeah.
had a football, so he got a football signed. Like, all right, on to the next one. Got to find Santana Moss. Who do I run into? It's not Santana Moss. I run into Sean Taylor, 2006. And I say, oh my God, I love Sean Taylor too. That's Santana's my favorite player, but I love Sean Taylor. And this was before, 2006, I would say, was like Sean's like real big breakout year.
Yeah, that was,
to where you're like, all right, this guy is not just a good safety. He's like a great safety. And then 2007 was that year where he was going absolutely ballistic. He's like sprinting sideline to sideline, picking Brett Favre off. Like that 2007, unfortunately, was the year, but it was his best year.
Well, God saw what he did on the field. Was like, nah, we can't.
It's like,
I can't let you have a full career doing this.
You're going to be too good. I get Sean Taylor's autograph. On a piece of paper. I took that piece of paper and I cherished that piece of paper.
Do you still cherish that piece of paper?
No. So what happened was, paper only lasts for so long.
Yeah.
This wasn't great paper. This was literally just a 2x2 thing. I don't know where my parents got just a 2x2 thing. So the paper basically disintegrated.
Well,
it was falling apart. It was everything. So I lost Sean Taylor's autograph, but I had Sean Taylor's autograph, all because I was trying desperately to get Santana Moss's autograph. And as soon as Sean Taylor signed the autograph, someone from security is like, hey, you don't have a pass on. What are you doing back here? And at 11, I did not have the wherewithal to lie and be like, I don't know where my pass is. And then they kicked us out. So I never got Santana Moss's autograph, but I did get Sean Taylor's autograph. Good times.
Great times.
Good times. I wish I still had that thing, and I wish I was smart enough at 11 to maybe not have a piece of paper signed. You live and you learn. All right, coming up next, the one guy that has surprised everybody from training camp, and he might be an impact player immediately. I'll share with you who that is when we get back. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. First day of pads today in Ashburn. David Harrison in 40 minutes on the program. He was out there today. There have been a number of players that I have had my eye on, and one of those stood out again today based off of everything that I have seen on social media.
I think I've seen this too.
Ja'Cory Crooksy Merritt, a.k.a. Bill.
Big Bill.
He started as a guy that this offseason the fans fell in love with. It felt like more because people were tired of Brian Robinson as fans. Didn't have a great year last year. You wanted a lot more production statistically and a lot more of an impact on games late in the season that Brian Robinson did not give. So you draft a running back in the 7th round, and everyone says, all right, this is going to be our guy. We're going to hitch the wagon to Bill, and we're going to hope that he carries us literally to the promised land. And when that first comes about, you're like, all right, 7th round pick, is that really going to be something that is feasible? And if you're just looking at where he was drafted, the question is answered, and you say, no, what is a 7th round pick going to do in year number 1 of the NFL? Like Brock Purdy worked out. Brock Purdy's not everybody, right? Well, Bill, Max, is also not everybody. What excites me about him, outside of just what I have seen, which what I have seen also excites me, so it is twofold here. But what excites me the most is that he is not your average 7th round pick. Ahead of the 2024 college football season, Bill was viewed as a 4th or a 5th round pick. And then because of what transpired in 2024, he fell to the 7th round pick. There were so many other running backs that were ahead of him on most teams' draft boards that most teams decided we are going to go, if we need a running back, in a different direction. This is very different, though, from Sam Howell, because I feel like most people would immediately say, all right, Denton, like we did this. You're sounding a little too much like Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera would constantly tell us that Sam Howell was actually a projected top 5 pick that we just happened to get in the 5th round. That's great value. And on the surface, that is those two things are accurate. I'm saying that this guy was a 4th round pick or a projected 4th round pick that you happen to get in the 7th round pick. But there's a massive gaping elephant in the room difference between those two scenarios. Sam Howell was a top 5 projected pick and then ended up being a 5th round pick because he didn't play exceptionally well in his final year. Whereas Ja'Cory Crooksy Merritt was a projected 3rd, 4th round pick that became a 7th round pick because he literally did not play. And it wasn't he did not play because of an injury. There was no injury. He was totally healthy. He didn't play because the NCAA had their head in the sand. There was a payment that transpired. I believe this is the story. A payment that transpired and the NCAA was like, you can't play. And in the year 2024, it's wildly hypocritical, but also kind of hilarious. Like, why would they be caring about these sorts of things? And I talked to him last week in the way that the interview was set up. I loved him. I thought he was a really good dude, really great kid, and he gave good answers.
From everything I see, he's like incredibly personable.
He is. And I was kind of the beneficiary of that. So the way that this was, when you're media after practice, they kind of put you at a certain point. So if you pay attention to the Commanders' YouTube, social media, Twitter, the videos that they place where they're walking up that sidewalk and they have like a question, right? You can see in the background, there's a bunch of people standing there. Well, that's us. That's the media. And we have to stand there. And then if players want to come do media, you ask them like, hey, can I grab you? And you pray they don't say no, because if they say no, it's embarrassing. You're going out on a limb. It's like asking a girl to dance in a dance. You're like, hey, can I grab you for a quick 90? And if they're like, no, everyone looks at you because everyone is hearing you. Like all the media are in the same spot. So everyone's like, you just got rejected. So you pray that they don't say no. I caught Bill after he had 2 interviews before me. I caught him. So like everyone else kind of loosened him up a little bit, which is great. They like asked him questions, and it's natural for guys to be coming off of practice and not like be immediately in personable mode.
Yeah.
You're coming off of practice. It's hot as hell out there. Your adrenaline is still firing. So I had 2 interviews before, and they kind of opened him up a little bit. And then I was like, sick, here we go. He was great. He was great. Answering questions, really, really good dude. And you can tell that he really loves football. But because of what happened in 2024, you can also kind of tell that he's really, really excited and blessed to be here.
It's fresh.
He's fresh, and he really is wanting to take advantage of this opportunity. So that's the off-the-field stuff. Then there's the on-the-field stuff. And in watching some 7-on-7s, in watching some 11-on-11s, albeit I didn't get to watch anything with pads. I was not out there today. That's why we got David Harrison coming up in about 30 minutes. But there is an element of burst that he has that we have not seen here recently. There is an element of just being a very natural runner in terms of finding the hole, attacking the hole, and getting through the hole that we have not seen. I don't know who you want to point fingers at for what transpired last year with Brian Robinson towards the end of the year. Is this more on Brian Robinson for not attacking holes that were there? Is this more on the offensive line for not opening the holes that were supposed to be open? Therefore, Brian Robinson did not have the ability to attack holes. Was there miscommunications? They were opening a hole here. He was looking for it here in different places. There's a lot of stuff that transpired last year that did not look great that you could very easily look at and say, we're placing blame here, X, Y, whatever. I think Bill softens a lot of those issues on the offense. And I think if you put him in the backfield with Jaden Daniels, you are going to see a guy that is really going to be able to take advantage of the fact that Jaden is a guy with the ability to run. I'm not going to calling a guy a running quarterback feels almost defamatory because you expect them to run all the time. I don't expect Jaden to run all the time. I expect him to slice and dice defenses like he did all last year and then run when he needs to. But that threat of the run makes him a danger. And then adding a running back in the backfield that can capitalize off of that, that is incredibly exciting in terms of what you are adding to the offense. And I still am a believer in Brian Robinson. I think there are elements of Brian Robinson's game that he really does add to the offense, but he's not a home run hitter. He has never been a home run hitter. And I think Ja'Cory Crooksy Merritt is in a much better position to be a home run hitter. And the addition of another home run hitter to this offense is really, really exciting. That doesn't even factor in Deebo Samuel, who also has happened to look really, really good. So the 2 big additions on offense at the skill positions have looked really good in the early portions of training camp. It's only been 4 days. There's a lot. Eventually, Deebo is going to have a bad day of practice.
I don't know, man. I was told he was fat and slow.
He's not fat.
8%'s real?
8, dog, he ain't fat. He had just in standing by him, watching him, walk up without pads on. You're like, yeah, that guy ain't fat. He's not fat. I don't know why people ran with that narrative. It was a silly narrative to run with.
Listen, Brian just sat here and he said he was. So the narrative seems
he's running with the narrative, but Brian also doesn't like the Commanders.
It's
so that
true.
needs to be taken into consideration.
I go as far as to say he hates us.
It felt like it was something that San Francisco put out there when they got rid of him, because when you're getting rid of a guy that is as great of a playmaker as Deebo Samuel is, for as little compensation relative that they received for Deebo Samuel, you want to put it out there that there was a problem. You don't want to be the one with egg on your face, which, by the way, I just happen to, generally speaking, believe that San Francisco is going to have a little bit of egg on their face this year. Based off of relative expectations, I think they're going to fall a little short of that.
That'll happen when you give Brock Purdy that much money.
Brock Purdy, and you give, not only do you give Brock Purdy that much money, you take away a playmaker from him. And then you're relying on Christian McCaffrey, who has not been healthy last year.
Coming off one of the worst years of his career.
To just be healthy. And just expecting a running back who was not healthy the previous year and it wasn't like it was a massive, ACL tear. It was a nagging injury that he just couldn't get on the other side of. Expecting a guy that could not get on the other side of a bad injury to just get on the other side, and then trading one of the best playmakers on your offense away is not an overly intelligent. If you're not going to pay him, trade him. Get that. I understand where they're coming from there, but it feels like San Francisco is going to be on the wrong side of that. That's just me, right? That's how I feel about that one. I feel like the addition of those two guys are going to make this offense, which was already a ton of fun, exceptionally fun. And then having the ability in the backfield to legitimately have three guys that you can trust is a crazy luxury for a guy in Cliff Kingsbury that really wanted to run the football. And Austin Eckler, I think he might get a little bit of a reduced slate offensively, but him being kind of, shall we say, the mercenary, where you're not playing a ton of snaps, but when you do come in, so if he was playing, hypothetically, I didn't do this research, I probably should have. Hypothetically, he played 30 snaps when he was healthy last year, right, per game. If you take that down to 20 snaps, but those 20 snaps are impactful as hell when he's in there, this offense is going to be crazy. Because there were games last year. That Philadelphia Thursday night game was one of them. The Cincinnati game early, I thought, was one of them before he got concussed, where he was a lifeline for this offense. I don't want Austin Eckler to be a lifeline for the offense, but I want him to be a pop for the offense. So if Brian Robinson
special teams,
and actually, I don't want him on special teams.
You want Jalen Lane to take a spot?
I want Jalen Lane on special teams.
I
want
it.
Jalen Lane to be the primary return guy on special teams, and I want Luke McCaffrey to be the secondary return guy on special teams. Austin Eckler was a Pro Bowler on special teams. I don't know how. He stopped in the return game by week 8.
His production was great. It's just he kept getting dinged up.
He kept getting dinged up. I want to limit the amount of shots that Eckler is taking under the assumption that when he gets the football, every time he's going to be able to do something positive with it. That's my general line of thinking. So if you limit the snaps, you're not relying on him, but you're then using him in his best, at this point in his career, in his best way, which is every touch that you have is going to be impactful. And then you can let some of the younger guys, Bill, B-Rob, they can take a little bit more of the punishment. Although I got to be honest, Bill can dish it too.
I love it. I read Tyler Owens.
Owens collision today. They weren't at this particular point in time. They weren't taken into the ground. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like rap, right? But it's pads and you're hitting. There was a hole that opened. It was Bill. It was Tyler Owens. It was
Oklahoma drill.
It was basically a fast, sped up Oklahoma drill because you're running in not game speed, but you're running in practice speed, right?
Oh yeah.
Bill did not lose. There was a collision. There was a sound of the collision, which if you've been in practice, there's hits and then there's hits.
Mm-hmm. This
was a hit, and Merritt did not go to the ground.
Buy all the stock you can, people. I'm telling you.
He is going to be something that adds an element to this offense. And then with Laramie Tunsil, with Josh Connerly, I am excited to see. This is where you're really going to learn about Connerly, about Von Miller to an extent, although he did not practice today, and about Brandon Coleman. Now that Brandon Coleman is shifting into guard, how are they going to look? And there were some really good reps today, according to people that were there, between Josh Connerly and Brandon Cole and not Brandon Coleman, Deatrick Wise, when they're doing one-on-one drills where you actually get to get up, get physical, and get your hands on guys. They do that in shells, but it's not with the level of physicality that you really want to see. It's, hey, you can touch each other, but we're not getting crazy. Now you're allowed to get a little bit crazy, and you're allowed to let this
the hand fighting
and this level of competitiveness come to fruition, because you could win reps with shells, but you're not really winning reps because you say, I can't get that physical, right? There aren't any excuses for that anymore. So I'm excited to see how the young guys look, the rookies, now that you can be a little physical, and I'm excited to see how the defensive backs look. I am where I was this time last year with the defensive backs versus where I am today with the defensive backs, no pun intended, is night and day.
It's like where we were with quarterback 2 years ago and last year.
To last year. It's a complete 180. If you believe that Marshawn Lattimore is going to be fully healthy, which optimistically I do.
I've seen no evidence to the contrary.
No evidence to the contrary. I've seen him run a little bit. He looks good when he runs. If you believe that Lattimore is going to be healthy, and you believe that Trey Amos is something, Trey Amos on one side, Lattimore on the other side, and Mikey Sanders still in the slot.
You kidding me?
Come on now.
Are you kidding me?
There are going to be some fans, I think, that hear moving Mikey to the slot as like a downgrade in the 2025 NFL, where every team is willing to throw the ball sometimes 40 times a game. You need 3 DBs out there. And there are very few guys, like maybe 1 or 2 who lined up in the slot I would take over Mikey Sanders still. Very, very few. You're putting him in the slot, and he's going to perform well. Because he was our best defensive back last year against the Philadelphia Eagles. It didn't matter if he was taking on A.J. Brown. It didn't matter if he was taking on Devontae Smith. He was the best defensive back against those Philadelphia guys. They got a pretty good group of wide receivers. They only throw to 2 of them, but they got a pretty good group of wide receivers. If you're lining him up in the slot, he's going to win those matchups. He's going to win those matchups 9 times out of 10. So that's incredibly, incredibly exciting. What position battle or what player are you looking to learn the most from out of training camp now that the pads are on? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Who are you most looking forward to learning about now that practice is ramped up a little bit? We'll take some of your phone calls when we get back. David Harrison joins at noon on the Kevin Sheehan Show with 10 Days sitting in.
All right, we're back at the saddle. Happy first day of pads to all who celebrate. Terry McLaurin showed up to camp yesterday. He was placed immediately on the PUP list with an ankle injury. Terry and his agent Buddy Baker are both at camp as both sides, the Commanders and Terry, continue to work on an extension to keep him in Washington past 2025. Santana Moss, it was announced yesterday he will be inducted into the Commanders Ring of Fame. The ceremony will take place September 7th, pregame against the Giants to open the season. The Washington Mystics, they fall to the Phoenix Mercury 88-72. Shakira Austin led the team in scoring with 20 points on 8 of 18 shooting. And the Nats, they take down the Minnesota Twins by a score of 7-2. Jake Irvin credited with the win. He only gave up 2 earned runs and 5 hits. C.J. Abrams kicked off the scoring in the first with a bomb to right center field. They will take on the Astros tonight. First pitch is at 8:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 7:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Kevin Sheehan show on the Team 980 at the Denton Day, sitting in for Kevin. You can tweet me there. Our question for you right now at 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. What position or position battle do you most have your eye on now that we have started practice in the pads? David Harrison joins in 15 minutes from Ashburn. He was at practice today. We will start with our guy, Mark in Largo. Mark, you are on the Team 980. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, what's up, Dan? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Hope you are too.
Doing pretty good. Look, my position is I think it's the running back position. Now, the wide receiver position, I think it's will be more interesting if Noah Brown is still on the PUP list. I think that will be more interesting. But I definitely think right now it's the running back position. And look, I know the Commanders are playing hardball with Terry McLaurin, but at least Terry McLaurin has been average and probably a little bit above average. Brian Robinson hasn't been average. And everybody is under this impression that Brian Robinson is going to make the team. I'm not sold on that. I'm not sold because, I mean, the front office could look, they can make a case. If they get something from Bill Merritt, what do they need him for? No one's going to trade for someone who hasn't even made 1,000 yards. I mean, he's not even average if you haven't made over 1,000. Look, Najee Harris didn't even stay with the Steelers, and he made over 1,000 yards 4 years in a row. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I think the running back position, the open position is had for. I think Eckler could be the starter for the season, and then Bill will be worked in probably by the third or fourth game. I think Eckler will be there, but I'm not sold on B-Rob. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I think if Merritt shows out in these preseason games, they're going to look at him. And then they're going to look at, Brian, who's going to be up for an extension this offseason anyway. What do you need him for?
Mark, you want to know a crazy stat?
Yeah, go ahead.
Brian Robinson has averaged more yards per carry than Najee Harris has. Najee Harris just has over 100 carries more per year.
But how many yards does he average over the year for the last 3 years?
4.1 yards.
Hasn't gotten over 1,000, has he?
He hasn't gotten over 1,000. No.
Yards?
Oh, you're talking yards? He's had over.
Let me tell you what the front office is looking at. Okay, let me tell you what the front office is looking at. You got 17 games. Okay, the yards per carry is fine. That's great. Fine, well and good if you want to use that. If you want to use that, if you can't make over 1,000 yards, you have no case. Now, you could have said that 50 years ago. You could say that 50 years ago when it was 14 games. Can't say that now when you have 17 games.
Mark, I appreciate the call as always. Here's where I would push back at least a little bit on that. I think they care if they're not planning on giving him 400 carries. Like Brian Robinson has only had over 200 carries once in his career. That was his first year, which is actually kind of crazy. He had 187 last year, 178 in 2023. If they're only going to give him that amount, if you're getting 4 yards a pop, I think that's okay. So, like, I don't think that Brian Robinson, I know it's probably a nice idea that people think Brian Robinson is going to get cut. I don't think that Brian Robinson is going to get cut. Bill would have to look insanely good.
And also, like, if you're just going to cut Brian Robinson, you might as well try and trade him and get something for him.
Right. And no one's going to trade for him at this point. The thing is, when you cut him, someone will immediately go out and get him.
Easily.
And it's not like you are unbelievably loaded at the running back class. Do I think this is his last year in DC? I do. I don't know that he is going to sign an extension next year unless he absolutely balls out. But still, it's very rare that you see guys sign extensions as running back with the team that signed them for any sort of real good money unless you are balling out, which he has not done. So I agree that this might be his last year in DC, but he is going to play this year in DC unless Merritt is just annihilating dudes in training camp and in the preseason. It's possible, but it is a highly, highly unlikely. So I think you walk into 2025 week one with B-Rob, Eckler, and Bill as your three running backs, and you're feeling pretty good about that. And then you can have Chris Rodriguez on the practice squad or whoever else that they decide is a
not
quality.
A believer in Jeremy McNichols. Look at you,
Jeremy McNichols, whoever it is, whoever you want as running back for, you keep them on the practice squad. They clearly don't love those two guys enough to say that they're definitively running back three, or else they would not have drafted Crooksy Merritt. So I think that Merritt's your third running back, B-Rob is your first running back, and then Eckler is running back 2, third down back, used out of the backfield, similar ways to what we saw him do and how he was utilized last year. Let's go to Tony in D.C. Tony, who is the one guy that you're looking at this year that you really want to see perform in camp?
I'm really trying to figure out the whole thing with Michael Gallup because he's been quiet. It's under the radar. You haven't heard much from him. You haven't heard anything. You haven't heard much talk about him. And I'm expecting something out of him that I think people kind of forgot he was on the roster.
Yeah, Tony, that's a good pull, and I appreciate the call. That's a really good pull because I've been interested in Michael Gallup as well this offseason. Outside of Noah Brown, there's a drop-off when you look at the roster. McCaffrey was fine last year. He's a rookie, but there wasn't a lot of great plays from Luke McCaffrey. You let Oz go. Diami is gone. Crowder is gone. So there is an opening for wide receiver 4, and it's a battle between McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, who Lane has looked really, really good in the early portions of training camp, Michael Gallup, and Chris Moore, right? So it's those 4 guys, McCaffrey, Gallup, Lane, Moore, that are fighting for what is likely going to be at 3 spots. I don't know that they'll keep 7 wide receivers. It's too early to tell. We'll see kind of how they rotate in that first preseason game, where I can't imagine you'll see a ton of the first teamers. Maybe Jaden gets a possession, maybe, but probably not. You'll see a lot of that work done in the joint practice that they're going to have with New England. So I'm not expecting a lot of ones next Friday, but you'll see how deep they want to go with receiver. Gallup obviously has the history with Dan Quinn in Dallas. Dan Quinn, defensive coach, but just understanding the culture that Dan Quinn is going to create and the vibe that Dan Quinn wants to have as a coach is very appealing. So they have the history together in Dallas. Didn't play last year, was decent at times, it felt like, in Dallas, but was never really great in Dallas. I am curious as to what he is going to be, because it felt like when he was signed, Gallup was a big enough name to get your eyebrows to raise and be like, this could be a little bit of something, but not a big enough name to think, oh, yeah, he's going to catch 40 balls for 500 yards. Like, I can't see if Michael Gallup catches 40 balls for 500 yards and multiple touchdowns on this team, something has gone wrong at receiver. Injury, someone just not being who we thought they were going to be. Something has gone very, very wrong. Noah Brown is another interesting case. We've been so focused on Terry McLaurin. When Noah Brown starts to participate again, the trio of Terry, Debo, and Noah Brown is a pretty decent group of 3 receivers to have. You take that with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, and then Zach Ertz at tight end. That is a drastically better skill position group than what this team ended last season with. For however you felt with Diami Brown, which I can't imagine there were a ton of Diami stands in general, but certainly not still existing. So however you felt about him, that group of wide receivers is, I think, substantially better than what they ended the playoffs with, which excites me, Max, as I think about that and how they're going to utilize some of those dudes. I think Debo is going to start as much more of a wide receiver than the Weapon X that people thought he was going to be. I think he will transition into the Weapon X, but I think he starts the season as your more traditional wide receiver with maybe a few plays here or there. And then as the season progresses, they get a little bit more comfortable. Maybe Luke McCaffrey becomes the man that most of us want him to, as the McCaffrey Hive. What is the McCaffrey Hive? Luke Lovers? I don't know what the nickname.
I like Luke Lovers.
Luke
That's
Lovers. You know, we love alliteration in the business. But regardless, if McCaffrey steps up, then maybe you can get a little bit more creative with Debo. But I do think he starts as like your traditional wide receiver 2, at least for the first few weeks of the season. That, to me, would make the most amount of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope the wide receiver is definitely an interesting thing to watch. The one area that I'm increasingly intrigued by is this defensive front. It's these front 5 that they're like, because I've heard that they're going with like 5 down linemen in some cases.
Yeah.
Putting Kinlaw on the edge and just going like with these massive bodies And I'm very excited to see how the increase of size has hopefully helped in assisting in stopping the run.
You know, Dietrich Wise is a guy that I'm wanting to pay attention to. I won't be out there this entire week just because I'm doing this show.
You're stuck with me, brother.
Yeah, I'm stuck with you. You and I stuck together. I do think after Kevin gets back, I'll be out there more frequently. I am intrigued to see how Dietrich Wise is going to look now that pads are on and going up against. I hope they rotate him. I want to see him go up against Josh Connerly so Connerly can get comfortable working against bigger guys that are going to be on the outside and some of the things that Dietrich Wise possesses. And I think that'll help Josh Connerly, and Dietrich Wise could learn a little bit from him as well. But then I really want to see him match up against Laramie Tunsil because I want to see him learn from Laramie Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil is one of the best in the business at his particular position. Dietrich Wise is a good player, but no one has ever confused him with being one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. So he clearly has a little bit to learn. So I want to see these matchups. That's the very nice thing about some of the moves that they've made in bringing in a Von Miller. He gets to teach some of the young guys, here are moves that I would do in this instance, here how to protect against these sorts of moves. And then on the flip side, you have a guy like Laramie Tunsil who can go up against some of these younger defensive guys and say, here's what I'm seeing from you. Here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what I would adjust as we get closer and closer to the season. This is what camp is for. It's for getting better and learning from one another so that when week 1 comes, you can decimate the New York Giants.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. And on top of that, that Giants defensive front is frightening. They are very, very frightening.
Every clip I've seen of Abdul Carter is slip, boom, immediately on the quarterback.
He's really good.
It's insane.
He is really, really good. I am upset that the Jaguars took Travis Hunter because I think the Giants would have taken Travis Hunter if he was there, and I would have much rather seen them take Travis Hunter than Abdul Carter. Because Abdul Carter with Dexter Lawrence, with Kayvon Thibodeau, with Brian Burns, yikes. Not fun. That's not going to be a fun trio to deal with. As we have mentioned throughout the course of the show, first day of pads, David Harrison was out there, covers the team for the Locked On Podcast Network. He hosts the Locked On Commanders. He was out there. Who were some of the guys that stood out to him when the pads finally came on and we got some real contact? He joins us on the other side. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show with Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. David Harrison going to join us in a matter of moments. He was out in Ashburn. We'll get his thoughts on some of the guys that stood out to him in the first day of pads. We've been talking about Ja'Cory Crooksy-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill. He's been the guy that I know a lot of fans are really intrigued with. I have been really thrilled with the way that he has looked. So I'm excited to see what David thought of him. Tell us the story of that collision. We talked about that collision that took place with Bill and Tyler Owens that got an audible gasp from those that were there. So I'm excited to see what David is going to say about that particular thing. And just Brian Robinson as well. We've had some people in our chat. We've had some people on the phone lines wonder what Brian Robinson's status is going to be on this roster. So we got David. We'll go out to him now. David Harrison, hosts the Locked On Commanders podcast, does a bunch of great coverage all season for the Locked On Podcast Network. David, appreciate you making some time for me. First day of pads. I know it was hot as hell out there this morning, my friend. What stood out to you in seeing some real contact?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, just getting that physicality going. The players have been itching to do it. Obviously, the fans love to see it. We love to see it. So it was good to see that going, but also getting it done cleanly, right? Like remembering, you're not here to destroy each other. You're here to make each other better. So put in some good work, crash the pads a little bit, but also remember that your teammates. And I think they did a really good job of that. Only like one moment I can really remember, where, there may be a little bit of a dicey kind of tackle, heat of the moment type of situation. No ill will intended or anything like that, but just kind of, spirit of the moment type of deal. But it was handled real quickly. No coaches had to get involved, right? Veteran player kind of comes over to younger guys and says, hey, like, that's not what we're here for, quiet it down a little bit and get some good work done. And then talking to guys off the field, just continuing this kind of brotherhood practice of, iron sharpening iron, but doing it in a very deliberate way compared to just simply practicing against each other.
Do you remember the two players that were involved in that slightly dicey tackle?
I don't remember who was tackled. It was Kay Medrano, the rookie running back, just kind of reached up and pulled the guy down a little bit harder than he should in the moment. Bobby Wagner came over, talked to him a little bit. Nothing got heated or anything like that. And Kane understood, and they continued their practice, and, no other incidents were happening.
How did the running back group look? I know there are a lot of us that are really excited on Ja'Cory Crooksy-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill.
Yeah.
How did he look with pads on?
He looked good. He looked really good. There was one specific rep, near the goal line that really kind of stood out to me. Eddie Goldman, big dude, veteran, run defender, gap filler, right? Like that's literally what he's there to do. Had a hold of Ja'Cory, but Ja'Cory was pulling him. But Ja'Cory just was dragging him behind him and moving forward. I mean, that lower body strength alone just on full display in that rep specifically. And, I know Ja'Cory's been waiting to put the pads on, for this exact moment, but also another rep where he got through a hole. I mean, he got skinny and got through the hole and was able to turn a big run out of it. I mean, it's a good introduction into who he is as a football player that I think we're going to see, an even more intentful version when he gets to go against the Patriots. And, again, still not 100% in the practice, but, a little bit more amplified. And then once we get to the game, I think it's going to be a really good introduction to the NFL for him.
Have you gotten any sense on how the coaching staff feels about him?
Yeah, they definitely like him. Anthony Lynn, old head coach, right? Like he knows how to kind of keep his comments from going too far one way or the other. But you can tell he definitely is impressed with his work ethic, with his ability to come into the room and just kind of integrate. The running backs have their kind of routine they do after every practice. They run over together, and I literally mean run. Like they're literally jogging off the practice field over to the jug machine. They're getting in a bunch of catches together as a group, and then they come together and they huddle. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know if they're praying. I don't know what they're doing, but they get together and kind of huddle up for a minute, and kind of say some words. Then they have their little routine on how they break that huddle. And it's just really cool to see the group really unified because, all of us, what are we talking about? We're talking about, go back to the off season. Like, could this team draft a replacement for B-Rob? Could they trade B-Rob? Is this going to be Austin Eckler's last year here with this contract season? Is Ja'Cory going to be a running back number one? So if you listen to the narratives that we're all discussing, like they could be pitting each other, against each other, but they're doing a lot of, very deliberate work to stay unified as a running back group. And I think it's good for the team.
Brian Robinson definitively running back one right now.
Yeah, I think Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, like their roles are, pretty much as cemented. I know they say every position is up for grabs, and certainly look, a guy like Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, I mean, if he comes through in the preseason and kind of gives the coaches no excuse to not, play him more, then certainly that could possibly, change things. But I think right now, Brian is the top guy. Austin's the change of pace guy. He was back there getting some special teams work today as a return specials with Deebo Samuel, which is really exciting to start kind of watching. And then, Ja'Cory will try to figure out his way to get some reps there. Jeremy, Chris Rodriguez, all those guys.
Did Jalen Lane catch that pass on Sunday?
He caught the pass. It just wasn't in bounds. If he was at Va Tech, it'd have been a touchdown. Was it 6 months ago, 8 months ago, that's a TD. Unfortunately, in the NFL, it would have been a really great play that didn't count. But you just love the fact that he brought it in the first place. I think it really just showed a big flash of his potential. Jaden putting the ball. I mean, Jalen is not a tall dude. So to put that ball over two defenders to where only Jalen can make that play. I mean, Jaden I think there's almost a daily basis where he makes a throw where it just reminds me of how lucky I am to be doing this job and come out here and get to watch him and makes up for, some of the other stuff we've had to watch.
I mean, it feels like he just walked in this cycle, this training camp cycle, just unlimitedly comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, when we first got back together for that first OTA practice, and I got to see him, one of my first observations was, I feel like we're back in January. I feel like they won the NFC Championship game, and this is just the next practice in the cycle. Obviously, it's a lot warmer. But, just looking at the comfortability, looking at the control, his connection with Zach Ertz on that day specifically, it really didn't feel like there had been this break and that he had been, gallivanting all around the world doing press stops and visits and shooting Nike commercials and all this stuff. It felt like he had just, we just had a couple of days off from practice. And now we're back to it. And it's super impressive, man. And just, we all praise his poise and his maturity and all that. But I think this really just kind of solidifies that even more. Because, I've even, I've gotten to cover Tom Brady. And granted, he was in the elder stages of his career. But even Tom Brady, you come to and I don't want to get crazy with the comparisons here. So let's not turn this too high. But, even Tom Brady, I remember coming to a first training camp practice to see him, and you could kind of see it's the first training camp practice. But with Jaden, it really does seem like he hasn't missed a step.
Talking with David Harrison here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dente sitting in for Kevin. He is the host of the Locked On Commanders. You can find him on Twitter at DHarrison82. A lot of attention, David, has been paid to the cornerbacks and the DBs. How has Trey Amos looked in the first couple of days of training camp?
Comfortable. Every rookie has a rookie moment. We talked about Kane a minute ago, kind of getting caught up in the heat moment, going a little bit overboard on the tackle. That was kind of his rookie moment, right? Jalen had a drop, Ja'Cory Brooks has had some drops. But Trey, he looks really good. If he gets beat, it's been because Jaden and or the receiver just made a better play. And that's going to happen in the NFL. Everybody's talented. But Trey hasn't had one of those just blown coverages or, just blatantly, okay, you're the new guy type of mistakes. He looks like a natural fit in this defense, which, when you go back to the evaluation and the tape of him coming out of Ole Miss, he was kind of that quintessential Washington Commanders DB as long as the personality fit, which is something that we can't evaluate from our foxhole. But yeah, so far getting to know him just a little bit and talking to him, his personality seems to jive. His play is certainly doing wonders. I actually talked to Coach Simmons, the defensive pass game coordinator today off the practice field. And he was one of the guys we talked about along with Tyler Owens, and just how much these young guys are really not only embracing what is being preached and what's being taught, but putting it into action and doing it in a very quick manner.
I want to pat us both on the back because, David, we're 11 minutes into a conversation before we've even mentioned Terry McLaurin. So kudos to us. But with that said, what has it been like since he got back? Has it been distraction or has it been positive?
No, it's been, honestly, it's business as usual. I don't know that, there's no difference on the practice field. There's no difference in, the flow of things, the way the coaching staff is behaving, talking to the players. There's no sense there's things like tension, looming over people. And I think it kind of goes back to what Bobby Wagner, said in his press conference just the other day. He said that, he thinks every NFL player needs to get more intelligent about the business side of this, but also part of knowing the business side of the NFL is understanding what is your business. And, when it comes to Terry McLaurin's contract, that's none of Bobby Wagner's business. And I think the players and the coaches kind of all take that same approach. Like when he's here, fantastic, we'll move forward. But while he's not, we're going to move forward with the guys that we have, and the receivers that have been here and playing in Terry's absence have done a very good job. I think, if, not that I wish this to happen, but like if Terry just wasn't a part of this team, I'm not saying you'd be like, oh, this is, Super Bowl or bust type of offensive, weaponry, but I think you would still feel good about what you're seeing here on the practice field. That being said, when Terry comes out to say hi to the fans, which I think is great that he's taking time to still go ahead and do that, you certainly notice that, obviously the fans want to see him. The fans still love him. And honestly, just come out here to say hi to them in the midst of all this is just going to make them love him even more. And he wants to get this thing done. They say day by day. Tomorrow's another day of practice. So who knows? Maybe 17 will be on the field tomorrow.
A couple more here for David Harrison. He joins us. He's the host of the Locked On Commanders podcast. He joins us here on the Team 980 on the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dent Day sitting in for Kevin. How has Josh Connerly looked? He got to get physical today for the first time.
Yeah, I think he's looked kind of what you'd expect him, right? Super athletic, certainly has the raw athletic tools. I still think maybe his anchor just needs to get a little bit better, and some of that's going to be technique. Some of that's going to be putting on size and just getting stronger through the natural progression of being in the NFL and in a weight room and in a training program and all that stuff. I think he kind of had an up and down day today, which is probably what you would expect from a rookie. And Laramie Tunsil had a rest day, so Josh was out there getting all the first team right tackle reps, which is exactly what you want. You need to go out there and get lessons. And Dorrance Armstrong got in on him a couple of times, but at the same time, there were a couple of pockets that were incredibly clean. So certainly some wins going on there as well. And the important thing is going to be what does the tape show? I love the fact that this team, is more open than any other that I've covered about how much they crosstalk. Dorrance is going to go there and say, hey, man, that rep that I just destroyed you on, here's why I destroyed you on it. Here's what I saw. Here's what I did. Here's what I was thinking. Here's how you stop me from doing that next time. And that's great. That's a great opportunity for Josh to go out there and learn and get better. So the next time we see pads, it's going to be something that we're watching for to see that incremental progression as we go.
I would assume that the cross-talking is a relatively new thing. Like in your years of covering this team, you haven't seen that every single training camp, have you? At least to this extent.
No. Yeah, exactly. And at least not to this extent. I mean, I was on my own program. I was actually having this conversation, and, I remember myself, and this isn't to try to put myself on any type of pedestal or anything, but like I've had conversations with players in the past where I'm like, I saw this rep, whether it be a game, so the example I'm thinking, I'm not going to name names, but the example I'm thinking of specifically was a defender who got beat by an offensive player. That offensive player just so happened to be a college teammate of his. They're really good friends. And, the following week I said, hey, that rep, like what happened, just kind of talking in the locker room. And they're like, oh, here's what happened, A, B, C, and D. It's like, cool. Did you talk to him after the game or like anything like that? He's like, yeah, we caught up. I was like, cool. Did you ask him about that play and like how he kind of bent you the way that he bent you? And you kind of like sat there. He's like, no, I should do that. He's like, I should text him. He's like, yeah, you should. That's your friend. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like that seems like a fairly, I don't say obvious, but like a smart thing to do. But the amount that it doesn't actually happen would probably surprise a lot of people who are sitting there saying like, yeah, why wouldn't you do that? So to at least this extent, because like Brandon Coleman's talking about Javon Kinlaw, today just specifically told me that very first rep of teams, Javon Kinlaw destroyed him. And so he came back. He's like, man, you just owned me on that one. Javon's like, yeah, here's why I owned you. Here's how you fix it. And Brandon's like, cool, thanks. He went there and he fixed it. And then he was able to stonewall Javon. And then, they'll go back together and Javon will say, hey, man, when I tried to rip this move on you, you stopped me. How were you able to stop that? And he'll say, well, you loaded up with your left arm doing this or whatever it is. So it's not just veterans teaching young guys. It's also young guys. Like if the young guy beats you in a rep, go find out why so that you can get better as well. And it's, at least to this extent, it's really great to see, but it's also very unique.
Javon Kinlaw is massive. He is a massive dude, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's bigger than I expected him to be. Absolutely.
So two more for you here. You and I were talking last week, and I was not aware of this, but you told me that you break out a new pair of kicks for every game. Do you already have in mind what you're breaking out for the preseason game against New England next week?
Oh, so the preseason doesn't count. I don't do that for the preseason. That's only for regular season. So I've got 4 pairs of sneakers already staged for the beginning of the year. Now that Santana is getting honored on week 1, I got to figure out like that's a special occasion, right? So that deserves. And anybody who doesn't care about sneakers doesn't care about any of this. But that's I'm gonna have to put some thought into which pair I wear there. because that's a special one. Obviously, Art Monk's jersey retirement's a special one. Spain is a special one. So I've got to figure out Lambeau my first time. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna look at all my shoes and say which one of you gets to touch Lambeau. You know what I mean? Like only one of you does. So it's gonna be special to losers like me who are into this kind of thing.
Are you like a primarily Jordan guy, or do you maybe break in some New Balances, some Adidas in there? Like how deep into the sneakerhead well do you go?
So I'm all Nike, mostly Jordan, but I do have like Air Force Ones. I'll get like Air Maxes, things like that. I'll do some of the other brands, but yeah, it's all Nike and mostly Jordans.
All right, so final question here. I mentioned that preseason game, August 8th. I said today that I'm hoping that a deal for Terry is done by that preseason game. Do you think something is in paper and writing and he will be practicing by August 8th?
I would like to think so. And I really would like to think that he's out there for the joint practice against New England Patriots, coming up, relatively soon. Because those are really valuable. Those are valuable opportunities, not just for the players to go out there and go up against live opponents, but also, Dan Quinn talked about this today. Like, he might go to Mike Vrabel and say, hey, look, like we really want to work on, beating cover one with this route combination. So can you throw us some cover one looks in this specific block? And Mike will do that. And then Mike will say, hey, we really want to, get better at chasing a quarterback like Jaden Daniels. So can you give me some read options during this block, right? And they'll help each other out. And so, when you're doing that, you obviously would like to have your full arsenal of weapons. It's not that they can't throw Chris Moore out there in that X position where Terry would be and say, run the same route that Terry would run, but it's different, right? Terry is who he is for a reason. So you can put a person in that spot, but he's not going to run it the same way with the same efficiency and the same intensity that Terry is. So you definitely want to have him out there. So I'm kind of putting a bookmark on that date. But yeah, certainly at least for the first preseason game, especially with the reduced preseason that we have now, you'd love to see him out there.
David, appreciate the time as always, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
That is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast. You can find him on Twitter at DHarrison82. He's out at training camp each and every day covering the Commanders. When we get back, Leno Willingham is going to jump on with us. Plus, the strangest reason that a guy has been released from the NFL. I would go so far as to say the strangest reason in NFL history. I will share that with you and Leno Willingham when we get back. It is the Kevin Sheehan Show with Dente sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. Is the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. Just had a great conversation with David Harrison. If you missed that, you can go back and watch the YouTube restream, or you can check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. We're literally everywhere. We are impossible to miss. You don't have an excuse to miss us. Leno Willingham with me now in studio. He was out there in Ashburn today as well. But before we get there, I don't want to say that I thought of you with this story, but I did read this story, and I was like, this would be interesting. You just happened to be here, and I was like, this would be interesting to get Leno's take on this. Christian Wilkins was let go from Las Vegas. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't, but
So he was let go, and they tried to void his contract, right? And part of it was because he was not doing rehab the way that they wanted him to. And then yesterday, there was a tweet that went out and said there was a weird incident.
Yeah, I saw that
took place. There have now been rumors on what this weird incident is. Allegedly, Christian Wilkins had multiple, as in more than one instance, of tickling teammates' toes.
Oh, this is I've also heard other body parts.
So John Feliciano, I don't know where they overlapped with each other. I think they overlapped in Miami. Quote tweeted it was like he's done some freaky stuff before.
And
big grab ass guy.
When a player is taking to Twitter, I don't really know who John Feliciano is. When he's taking to Twitter and saying he's a little freaky, you know he's a lot freaky.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. Apparently, he is tickling toes.
And grabbing ass and having fingers slip probably to places that they shouldn't be going.
So is that? Are you?
I didn't read that one. So
no, I've heard that one.
Well,
yeah. I didn't read it, but I did hear it.
I just the toe tickling. There's also a line you got to draw. Weird stuff happens in the locker room.
Weird. I mean, the locker room is a safe haven.
I think people need to understand that. My freshman year of high school, we had this kid. I think what was his name, Cam, and he like had these Superman tighty whities that he would wear around. He was a senior, and he was packing. I mean, and that was the point.
You're just outing secrets now.
People like twist nipples and do all types of stuff in the locker room. It's a locker room. But
yeah,
tickling feet is a little egregious.
Yeah, I feel like doing that in like high school is one thing.
Yeah.
And then doing it as a professional, you're like, I would have thought you grew out of the tickling of the feet.
We're adults, man. Let's relax.
Let's relax.
I can't believe I just said that about that guy from
you didn't drop a last name, so it's
yeah.
That's a common
fact I said it about another man.
I was gonna
facts are facts.
I was gonna let you get past it. All right, so you were out there pushing through entirely.
Yeah.
Pause again. You were out there at training camp. We've talked a lot about 32, Bill, as we like to call him now.
Bill.
What did you see from him? Tell me about the collision with him and Tyler Owens meeting in the hole and him winning the battle.
Yeah, so first and foremost, the Commanders' rushing offense today as a whole was like non-existent. The defensive line did a really nice job of really whipping ass at the point of attack and not allowing, them to get much movement. The 2 or 3 pop runs that I saw, one came from B-Rob, and then 2 came from Bill. And the first one that came from Bill does a nice job pressing the hole, and then the jump cut happens. Good jump cut that gets him about 4 yards. I'm talking about 4 yards before he gets touched. The play in which he meets Tyler Owens in the hole, Bill gets it, cuts back from left to right, makes it through the hole. Tyler Owens is obviously one of the final lines of defense as a safety. He comes screaming up, but Jacory protected himself, lowered his pad, and we got a nice late July thud is how I would describe it. A nice late July thud. You heard pads pop, and it was cool. It's 2 young guys that, have a real good chance to make this team.
Is B-Rob still definitively running back 1?
Not even close. I'll be real with you, and this is going to, depending on how the numbers game shakes out at tight end and wide receiver, Bill might not make the roster. They may try to stash Jacory on the practice squad. There are things we haven't seen from him yet that he's going to have to do to make the team. Pass protection and playing special teams if you're going to be the 4th running back or 3rd running back.
Do you think he's 4th or 3rd? Because it feels like the way that
there are days when I watch where he didn't get snaps early on in practice. Like he's,
right. But it feels like that is amped up a little bit to the point where I see him a lot more Now, you've been there more than I have, obviously, but I've seen him a lot more like a Chris Rodriguez or Jeremy McNichols.
Yeah, those are the two guys that I would say, if they keep 4, I think the final spot, obviously B-Rob's a lock, Eckler's a lock.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to say Jacory's a lock. I think McNichols is a lock. He's the guy that has the special teams prowess. Him and C-Rod play teams. That's got to be a thing for you. So I think that'll be the determining factor. Now, obviously, if Bill comes out in the joint practices and comes out like gangbusters, he's going to make the team.
Right.
He hasn't done anything to me yet to where I'm like, oh, snap. Like that's the guy.
Like shining.
He's better than
shining
like he hasn't
star.
done anything to separate himself, is how I will put it.
Because the Brian Robinson thing, I was frustrated with Brian Robinson last year the same way that most were, because the expectations I set were very high. And he did not exceed those expectations statistically. But I don't want him just to be cut.
Right.
And it feels like there's a segment of the fan base. We had a couple callers today that said, he's going to be gone if he's not.
B-Rob?
Yeah,
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I don't know that the running back room is that stacked to where you're just going to let Brian Robinson walk. I don't know if he'll be on the team next season, but I still think you get at least one more year out of him and see what can we do. Second year in the offensive line, hopefully a little bit better throughout the course of the season, and statistically, hopefully you get 800 yards. He's never gone over 800, so hopefully you get something like that.
I think that's fair. Also think like him being healthy down the stretch is going to be a big part of this too. He was nicked up, was well documented. I think it was the Cowboys game where we thought he broke his ankle. Remember that? And then he ends up being like a hamstring injury, something weird like that. His health down the stretch was a big factor, but you hit it right on the head. The interior 3 last year of Allegretti, Cosme, and Biotish got spanked at times down the stretch, man. Philadelphia, they struggled. Brian Bresee and the Saints were able to penetrate against them. Also, Diggy and the Cowboys did well against them. So,
and some of that was Dieter, not Biotish.
Yes.
And we hope that Biotish, I fell in love with that guy because once they put Dieter in and it was a drastic difference, all right, get Biotish back in. I don't want him hurt again. But so that played a factor into it too.
Yeah, 100%. So running back's going to be interesting. It's hard to, obviously it's the first day at pad, so evaluating that position at this point is interesting. But I feel like overall they're going to be better at that spot. Talking about running back, I think the competition that's there makes everybody better. I think Brian Robinson has looked good in terms of quickness and things of that nature, but it's hard to really evaluate that spot until pads, and then you'll get an even more extensive look when you're in New England practicing against the Patriots.
You know what's crazy is because that Brian Robinson, I think it was Mark in Largo, he said that Brian Robinson is going to get cut. And I looked at numbers and I was like, Brian Robinson is he averaged last year 4.3 yards a carry.
Not bad.
He just didn't carry a lot. He's gone over 200 carries once. That was his rookie year in 2022.
Where he was shot for the first month of the season.
Yeah, ironically, it's the fewest amount of games that he played, but the most amount of carries.
Because they didn't have any other offense.
They had nothing else going on there. And that was kind of when Antonio Gibson started to decline a little bit in terms of your general run. But he averaged 4.3 yards a carry, just only carried the ball 187 times. So if you give him 13 more carries, I'm not saying he's going 1,000 yards and 13 more carries, but you're at least over 800.
The way this offense looks right now, trying to throw the football on the perimeter, they're going to play a lot more big boy football using the tight ends, using multiple running backs. Because right now, today
it's a big difference without Terry, huh?
And Noah. Not you're starting to appreciate Noah Brown more too.
Yeah.
Guys just can't separate. Guys just can't win. Now, Debo and Jaden hooked up on a nice pass, that over route that we saw him hit to Zach Ertz a lot. He hit Debo on that today. KJ Osborne's made a couple of contested
Apparently,
catches.
He today was looking fast, is what I read.
He's a pro.
Yeah.
He's the guy in that room. Him, Michael Gallup, I have circled because it's they've done it before. Luke had a drop today where it's you just can't drop that pass. Now, it's good coverage from the defensive back, but the ball's hitting you in the chest. You got to squeeze it and bring it in.
Yeah.
So he's been up and down throughout camp. Everyone had a love affair with Ja'Cory Brooks.
I don't really get that. I get it, but I don't get it.
He's just
I
a
talked
different
to him.
name.
He's a different name.
Yeah.
Had a couple good games at Louisville. Nice kid. I really enjoyed talking to him for the 90 seconds, 2 minutes or whatever that I did. But he has some drop issues.
Making contested catches, and it's Terry's specialty. It's Buddy Baker and company, their negotiating tactic is working because
this has been a good week for them.
Yeah, the offense looks.
Yeah,
they look horrible at times on offense with the way the passing attack looks on the numbers.
Has he been a distraction?
Terry?
either Terry or Buddy Baker.
I wouldn't say so.
It's not often that the agent is just kind of looming. It's a little like Scott Boras-esque. Like,
Yeah.
remember when a couple of years ago when Juan Soto was at All-Star Weekend and Scott Boras was just hovering over him?
Mhm.
Like Buddy Baker being there is a little bit like that, but I get it. You're in the building, you're negotiating.
It's like earlier this year, Boris was sitting with James Wood's parents.
Yeah,
in
and
the
you're
game.
just like,
I was like, oh,
damn.
so yeah, that obviously is interesting, but I still preface all my comments by saying it's early during this portion of camp. They're practicing with a lot of effort and tempo. I love the way that they go through practice. It's so much different than a Ron Rivera practice.
So much different.
In terms of just the physicality and how hard they're going.
And also having fun.
Competing.
Like going hard and having fun at the same time is something that we never saw in the Ron era.
Seems like that's what makes up good football teams, man. But I think the biggest probably standout to me of camp is really two things. One, the offense and their inability to have guys win on the perimeter and then come down with the catch. And then two, for a group that like had a lot of question marks heading into this defensive line looks damn good. They're deep.
Yeah.
They're big. They're multiple. Got guys that can play in different spots. That in the wide receiver group on the perimeter and their struggles are probably my biggest takeaway here.
When is it fair to really start paying attention to how they're rotating guys on the defensive line? Because obviously, first day, Von Miller had a rest day. Like
he rested today too.
Yeah, they have a bunch of rest days with the veterans, but eventually, like you'll start to notice something. It's like, is there a point in time where you're like, all right, like we're noticing X player is getting a lot of reps at this spot
Today. I think starting today, like you're going to start seeing the difference and guys getting more of an opportunity. The numbers game of that spot's going to be interesting, right? 4 starters, and then all of those starters aren't going to play 100% of the snaps, so you need 4 backups, and then you got to have a body or 2 for injury. So they're going to keep anywhere from 8 to 10 defensive linemen. How they split that number up is going to be interesting, right? Because they got guys that can play inside and out, so maybe you can afford to keep one extra wide receiver because you've got Jalen Holmes, who can rush from the edge rusher spot and then from the 3-tech spot at tackle. So the numbers game there is going to be interesting. Johnny Newton popped today for the first time throughout camp. He had a play where completely, snuffed out a screen and made a big time play. Javon Kinlaw has done a nice job pushing the pocket. All of them have done a nice job.
I was going to ask about Kinlaw. I saw that video. He was sitting down with a television reporter. Forgive me, I don't know TV reporters.
It was names. Natalie Spaloff.
Yes.
7, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to get her call letters wrong. Like, she actually works for this channel. Like, no, she works for this channel. But I saw that video and, he's sitting down. So it's not like you don't get the greatest gauge in the world, but he's a big dude, man. He can take up a lot of space on that interior.
Yeah, he can. And the thing I love about him is he could play head up over the center. He can play inside shade of the guard. He can play outside shade of the guard. Like, there's just different spots you could put him at depending on who else you want to surround him with. The thing I keep saying, and we talked about this yesterday when you hopped on with me, as far as the defensive line goes, I think stopping the run has got to be their first priority because it unlocks everything else. Like, Von Miller is great, right? Frankie Louvu, I think, can be really good off the edge. Javonte, Dorrance, they've shown things. They got to earn the right to rush the passer, though. If you're getting blown off the ball and now you're in 2nd and 6 and 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and 9 and you can't pin your ears back, it's going to be hard. So the thing I keep saying is they've got to earn the right to unleash Von Miller and Frankie Louvu by winning on 1st and 2nd down more, something they really struggled with a lot last year.
You were at camp last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was both for Jaden and Mikey rookie years.
Yeah.
How different do they look now in terms of comfortability, just being out there?
I think Dan Quinn said it on day 2. Their maturation process started last year.
Yeah,
during the season,
which is crazy.
You saw them get better, right? We saw them get better in season. Jaden was the obvious one to see, but Mikey's play recognition is just out of this world. The tackling, the physicality, they've both they look like heart and soul guys of your sides of the ball.
Yeah, like
Jaden obviously is the focal point of the offense, but Mikey with his smarts, man, is just it's awesome. He takes everything serious. He's always going hard. Me and you have a special affinity for him because of his belief in the Lord, but he's just an all-around dude, bro. And I think he is somebody that may not be the biggest, may not be the fastest, may not be the strongest, but you know what you're going to get from him. One thing that Coach Simmons told me after day 1 is that him and Jonathan Jones have kind of been in lockstep in terms of him picking his brain because Jonathan Jones is a good player, Super Bowl winning champion, a guy that started a lot of games in this league.
There were points in time where I don't know that he was top 5, but there were points in time in New England where you looked at him and like, that's a top 10 dude.
Yeah, he's one of the best slot corners in the NFL. And when you think about his physical profile compared to Mikey, the ability to drop nuggets on the Mikey as to how to recover, how to take care of yourself, all of that is going to be huge. The one thing I keep saying about the secondary and the success they've had, are they having success because our wide receiver group is average?
Right.
Or are they having success because guys have taken a step forward in the second year of this defense? So,
2 more for you here. I appreciate the time. Do you imagine that it's going to be Amos and Marshawn on the outside, Mikey on the inside? Because that trio, in theory, sounds like a really good list. And I don't know where you're going to find as an opposition matchup wins there. Because like I'll take Mikey versus almost anybody in the slot.
So going back to my conversation with Coach Simmons, he like corrected me. I said, Mikey's moving back to the slot full time. He stopped me and said, no. Mikey is going to play both outside and inside. So obviously it'll be something that's situational. I don't know if that's just coach speak. I'm not trying to pigeonhole him to one spot, but yeah, I think that's probably going to be your starting corner tandem week 1. Trey Amos has been the real deal. Of the youngins, like of the first and second year guys, he's looked the best. Looks comfortable, looks like he belongs. Now he's not going up against any. And I'm trying not to be disrespectful to the other
think
guys.
that is fair though, because you're winning matchups against, with all due respect, guys like Chris Moore, and Chris Moore's not Terry. Like
right.
You understand
he's not a number 1.
There are nuances that Terry has. There's a reason that Terry is being discussed for a 3rd contract that would potentially put him as a top 5 player at his position. And then you're going up against guys that never got that. Been in the league a long time, so there's stuff that Chris Moore could provide, but he's not Terry McLaurin. He's just not.
I think that's a fair way to put it, but to give credit to Amos, I think the Patriots practice is going to be huge, man.
Yeah.
Your guy, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, Stephon Diggs.
It'll be interesting to see guys like Lattimore and Amos go up against Diggs.
Yeah.
Who is, for whatever he is in terms of age, he is a route running savant.
Yes.
That's always what he's been.
Yes.
Final question for you. I said at the beginning of the show when talking about the Terry news, my panic meter is not going to move unless we get to that first preseason game and there's no deal. Do you think that a deal is done by the time we get to August 8th?
Next week
with Terry? No.
I think this thing has a chance to drag into the regular season. The fact that,
does that mean Buddy Baker's going to go home at some point? I don't think he lives here. Maybe he does, but I don't believe that.
And I ain't got no other clients out this way, so
except for the kid in Baltimore.
So maybe that's a part of the reason he's here too.
But look, he got signed already, so you don't need to be around him that
much. So there we go. About where the Terry thing stands, I think him showing up yesterday was more of a byproduct of like them changing their strategy from the agency side of saying, hey, we can't keep having you rack up all these fines because with the new CBA, you can't waive them. I don't think
you can only pay $50,000 for yoga so many days.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's been a weird situation. I think I still go back to the Eastern's Automotive Group shoot and like Terry continuing to voice his frustration about a lack of clarity. They're talking now. I'm sure they've, patted him on the back and told him how much they love him and want him. But obviously the dollar amount that they signed him to is going to speak to that. They got to bring, if they're going to play this game with him, they got to bring somebody else in. They don't have the bodies.
No, they don't.
They don't have the skill to me.
Especially with Noah on the pop.
Now, and this is what I was talking to a beat reporter on the sideline today. Like when you don't have Noah and Terry out there, you know what a defensive coordinator is going to say? We're just going to go man because we think our corners can strap you. That's where Jaden Daniels comes into play. You can't play man against Jaden or else he's going to take the hell off.
Right.
So I think the mindset that Adam Peters has is, well, as long as we've got Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury, we'll be able to manufacture offense.
Right.
Is that a risky game to play for year 2 of a kid? Maybe, but I got 5 on it.
I got 5. Anytime you got 5, you're going to be in a good spot.
You feel good.
I don't love the idea of taking away wide receiver 1, but anytime you got 5 on it, you got good. Leno, appreciate it as always, my friend. You'll be with us a couple more times this week because we get to talk football. So we are soaking it up as much as possible. That is Leno Willingham. When we get back, something that Jaden Daniels told SportsCenter, that's if you're not hyped for football season already, it'll get you hyped for football season. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
All right, here is what's trending on this Monday, July 28th. Happy first day of pads to all who celebrate. Terry McLaurin has shown up to camp. He's placed on the PUP list with an ankle injury. Terry and his agent Buddy Baker are both at camp, and as both sides, the team and Terry, continue to work towards an extension to keep him in Washington past 2025. Santana Moss, it was announced yesterday he will be inducted into the Commanders Ring of Fame. The ceremony will take place September 7th against the Giants to open the season. The Mystics, they fall last night to the Phoenix Mercury, 88-72. Shakira Austin led the team in scoring with 20 points on 8 of 18 shooting. The Nats, they take down the Minnesota Twins 7-2. Jake Irvin gets the credit for the win after giving up only 2 earned runs in 5 hits. CJ Abrams kicked off the scoring in the first inning with a bomb to right center field. They will take on the Astros tonight. First pitch at 8:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 7:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980. Hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dent Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. I was going to play you something that Jaden Daniels said yesterday on SportsCenter, but we're pivoting here. calling an audible. We've been talking about Terry McLaurin and his contract extension. Listen to what Adam Schefter just told Pat McAfee a number of minutes ago here about Terry and what he is looking for.
It's been vast, and
Wow.
it's been vast. And so it's up to the two sides to figure out a way to bridge their differences. But I would say that DK Metcalf was the same draft class as Terry McLaurin. He got about $33 million a year. You know, I wouldn't think that Terry is willing to take less than that. And I think he wants considerably more than that. Now, what it comes in at, we'll wind up seeing. Washington, you know, they're not there right now. And they love and value Terry McLaurin, but they love and value him at a different price. So they seem, these two sides right now seem apart on the deal. Like, they don't seem close today. And I don't know how they're going to get that resolved and figured out, but these things usually find a way of working themselves out over time. But as of today, I don't get the sense that anything's close.
So that's Adam Schefter saying that Terry McLaurin wants, he thinks he wants. I would really emphasize the he thinks, because Adam Schefter is not reporting. He's saying, I think that Terry McLaurin wants considerably more than DK Metcalf, who got a 5-year, $150 million contract. Yikes. If that is what the asking price is from Team Terry, this is going to be a little bit longer than August 8th, because there's no way that Adam Peters and the decision makers who are in charge of the finances with Washington are walking into a negotiation saying we're willing to give you $33 million. Because if that were to be the case, that deal would have been signed long ago. The second they make that offer, you are taking that deal. I would take Terry McLaurin over DK Metcalf. But it's important to point out that DK, while they did come into the same draft class together, DK turns 28 in December. Terry turns 30 in a couple of weeks. So there is a 2-year age gap between the two of them, in that if you're giving DK 5 years, that contract is going to end at the same age where Terry's 3-year contract would end if Washington gives him a 3-year contract. I do not believe that Terry is asking for $33 million. Certainly not more than $33 million. Because if you look at the years that he has had, and he has had good years, he's had 1,000 yards every single season with the exception of his rookie year. In his rookie year, he only played 14 games. So he's had 1,000 yards every other season, but he's never gone over 1,200 yards. At the very least with DK has gone over 1,200 yards. Now, DK Metcalf has never had 13 touchdowns the way that Terry has in a single season. So McLaurin has that going for him in these negotiations. But I don't know that Terry McLaurin is, I don't imagine the front office is going to say, yeah, $33 million is something we are willing to give you, knowing that you probably have 2 really good years left, or 2 really quality years left. And then at the age of 32, we don't know what you're going to look like at the age of 32. If he really is asking for $33 million or more, this is going to be a much longer process than I was originally hoping for. And he's here. That's good, but he ain't stepping foot on that practice field until we get this deal done. Max, I'm not sure that we're going to see him until maybe the final preseason game. If he's asking for 33, that's not going to happen in July.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show when we were talking about the timing of all of this, it's like, it's very difficult to hold out and rack up these fines if you don't see that there's going to be a quick resolution to something like this. So get in there, hold in, avoid the fines, just be in the building, show face, you're able to rub elbows with the fans. And it's, I hope it gets resolved quickly, but man, if you're asking for more than DK and you're a couple years older, I really, sorry, man, I don't think you're going to get it.
It's going to be a tough thing to convince an operation that has already started planning for a Jaden contract, because that's what smart operations do. And this organization is now definitively a smart organization. $33 million. If you do get that money, I don't think it's out of the realm that he gets that money, but he's not getting that money in August, or at least in early August. That's going to be something where you wait until the end of training camp and you're starting to ramp up for week number 1. and then you're looking at him and saying, are you with us or are you not? And then you decide, all right, we're going to give you this money. We're not going to give you this money. Like Brandon Ayuk didn't get paid until September in San Francisco. Adam Peters wasn't there, obviously, but Sam Cosmi last year didn't get paid until September. He did everything at camp and at practice. He was there. He talked to media. He was working out. He was involved in drills, and he got paid in September. Adam Peters is not afraid to wait.
Yeah.
And that's from a team standpoint, that's positive. From a I want Terry McLaurin on the field standpoint, that is not positive. And you're like, oh my, he's not gonna be out there for a long time.
How do you feel about August 8th?
Not good. Not good.
What if we move that back to like September 1st? How about that?
September 1st, definitely. If Terry doesn't play, he's gonna play this year. He can't not play this year.
Exactly. He'll play the contract.
That's never worked for anybody that's tried that. Le'Veon Bell gave it a shot, swing and a miss. Now he's just a little psycho. Now he's
a
Twitter.
grifter.
Yeah, that's all he's doing. So you're not going to win that battle if you just take a year off. But $33 million, I would be dying to know what Washington went to the table with at first. Because we know how negotiations work. You kind of lowball them as the team. As the agent, you maybe go a little high. You come to a compromise, meet in the middle somewhere. If what some of the reporting that we have heard is true, and that's a big emphasis on if, Washington allegedly came low at like $27 million a year in the neighborhood of T. Higgins. If they're asking for 33, they probably came a little bit higher at the start of the negotiation, which means there might have been a $10 million difference or close to it in terms of the AAV when these negotiations first started. And then you got to like, it's a lot easier to come to a compromise if you're $4 million off.
Way easier.
$5 million off. Like, oh, you want 33, we'll give you 30, right? But if you're asking, if they started higher than 33 that Adam Schefter thinks they're asking for now, again, this is not a report, this is a thought that Adam Schefter said, but if that number's 33 now, it's likely not coming down that much further. So I'm in a much worse place mentally in terms of this deal getting done by August 8th than I was at the start of the show. That's it for me today. We are back tomorrow right here on the Team 980. I'm in for Kevin this entire week. Chris Russell up next, what he thought of practice today and what's next for Terry McLaurin. It's the Team 980.